Hideous Energy, episode 146.
Intro number 2.
Not going to tell you what intro number 1 was about.
Also, intro number 1 was pushing 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was.
So, here's a go at number 2.
This one has to be shorter because we have a 2-hour show for you today.
Again.
We've already recorded it. We are going to call Germany.
Yeah.
We're going to call the nation of Germany.
The whole state.
Which, as it turns out, the state of Germany
correct
is maybe the best place to Skype someone from because we just got amazing quality audio.
Never ever had the best Skype.
I'm
really...
Friend of the show and listener of the show, Andy Preller, sent us a book through the post, as we call it here in Britain.
Almost 2 whole years ago.
The city of Britain.
Yeah.
Called Babies in Black. It's written and illustrated by Arne Belstorff, and it's published by First Second. It's about the Beatles, but not, and also about Stuart Sutcliffe, who was maybe the 5th Beatle.
It is about him.
It is about him. And also no maybe about the 5th Beatle thing. Much debated.
What?
Much debated.
No maybe.
No maybe debated. Much.
So check out that.
We're going to talk to him and then about Thor and Spider-Man.
We really appreciate Andy stopping by. Check out his podcast if you speak German. You might check it out if you don't speak German. It's called Das Alles.
DAS space ALLES.
Correct. And then, we talk about Spider-Man and Thor for a long time. So
stay tuned.
Prep up for that.
We used to do a weekly webcomic called Super Cute. You can find all of those for free at supercutecomic.com.
Correct.
We are working on a long-form storyline that we're going to be packaging a massive PDF for you to purchase and enjoy at a low, low price that we haven't decided upon yet, but it's not going to be expensive at all, we promise.
Probably no more than $5.99.
You think it would be that much, really?
Depending on how much content.
I don't think so.
We're going to have
I would never pay that much.
We're going to have over 80 strips in it, with almost every single one of those having extra content, potentially blog posts. I know there's going to be either a forward or an intro.
The bad news is that we're in no position to set a price point right now at all.
$45.99.
Nope.
I hope you're ready.
But anyways, you can go check out those strips that we have made in the past on there. They're illustrated by artist Brent Hibbard. He is the pimpest of the artists.
Go to supercutecomic.com. It's not going to be there after this month. So if you want to go there, you need to go do it. However, all of the strips, we are reposting them over on our Supercute Facebook page.
Poorly.
We are doing it. So far, we've missed a day and sort of missed another day.
Missed a day, too.
So like 3 days. But we're trying really hard, guys. So go to Facebook and go to Supercute Comic. That's the page. Check out the strips there. Like we said, we're going to post all of the strips that have already been made on the Facebook page. After that, are we going to take them down and then put the book together? Or are we going to leave them on Facebook?
Maybe. Let's figure it out later.
Oh, okay. So go do that. Follow us on Twitter at Hideous Energy. Follow David's personal account, DC_Hopkins. Follow mine, Austin R. Wilson. Follow Brent's. It's at Brent Hibbard. During the show, right now, our buddy Emergy, whose real name is Emery, but no one calls him that anymore, is illustrating things based off of the dumb shit that we have said and are saying. If you go to youtube.com/hideousenergy, subscribe to us, like our videos, you can listen to the show and occasionally see an image that Emery has illustrated on your screen. Because we are not rich enough to buy cameras yet. Please give us money. We're poor. There will be video content at some point in the future. Absolutely no fucking idea when that's going to be. But I guarantee it'll happen at some point.
I don't guarantee that.
I don't either.
Please don't guarantee things.
I think there will be a video at some point.
Okay.
Maybe.
We can guarantee maybe a video at some point.
We are going to Small Press Expo this month. So if you're going to be there and you see and or hear us, make sure you yell at us. It'll probably scare us like it did the one time that happened last year, but then we will talk to you and then become your friends, and then you'll stop listening to the show.
There's going to be a lot of awesome people there.
Not us. We'll be there. We're not awesome.
Oh, I was like, what?
We are going.
Do we need to talk about something?
We're not awesome.
The artist for Reproduct,
Logan
Faerber, he's going to be there. Liz Suburbia, friend of the show. Jesse Lonergan, friend of the show. Last I heard, Fred Chow, also friend of the show, is going to be there as well
Fred's
at the table.
going?
Yep.
Kevin Chapieski's going to be there. He is the illustrator of Project Ballad, a webcomic that you need to check out, so make sure you do that.
A lot of cool people.
Yeah.
Will Fish is going to be there.
Will Fish, that's the guy who heard our voices and was like, guys, Hideous Energy. And David was like, "Abba."
I have to go. I have to go. I have to go.
And then I was, yeah, you've heard the story. You listen to the show.
Yeah, it's the same story.
So we're going to SPX. Make sure you yell at us when you see us. We're actually going to be recording from there like we did last year also. We're trying to work on getting people on the show already.
I got us one.
You got us one? Mm-hmm. Good job,
I forgot to tell you.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job, bro.
I really did.
So go there and find us and talk to us. We record a podcast for you.
Let me clarify that. When I say I got us one, it's I talked to Jesse Lonergan's doing a commission for me.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, I don't want it to say, because I know he listens to the show. I don't want it to seem like I was like, oh, we need to get him on the show. Like, I was talking to him about the commission, and he said he wanted to see us, and it'd be nice to hang out in person.
Yeah.
And he asked if we were recording a show, and I said yes, and I said, you should do a segment with us. And he sent me a giant happy face, meaning that he would want to do that.
I prefer that you would have said, I bagged us Lonergan.
But I just don't want him to hear it and be like, oh, that's what that was about. Like,
what?
They just want a guest on the show. Like, the way I said, I got us one.
Well, and to pay him for art.
Well, yeah, no, I know, but the way
look, Jesse, why are you mad at us?
The way it stood without explaining it made it seem very selfish on our part. I didn't want it to seem that way.
Yeah, I don't understand why he's so pissed.
I don't know what his problem is.
Yeah, I don't either. If you see Jesse Lonergan and
Punch him in the
SPX,
face.
ask him why he hates us so much. If you're going, make sure you say hi to us or any of our bros and sisses that are going to be there. And buy stuff from them, because it's a totally awesome place to get crazy stuff that you're probably not going to see anywhere else.
Buy stuff for us.
Buy us things too.
There, because we don't ever have that much money.
Yeah,
we're poor.
We're poor.
Last year we ran out of money.
We did, and we couldn't get
to the point.
Brown.
Yeah,
we're literally holding it like, oh my
now
gosh.
Brown, and then it was at the point where we were like, we better make it home on this tank of gas because we don't have food or gas money.
Yeah. I look forward to the exact same thing happening again.
Yep.
Make sure you go to dcbservice.com. They are our sponsors. Stands for Discount Comic Book Service. The name is no lie, my friends. On their website, you can get everything for at least 40% off. And I shit you not, we have a code you can use that will get you an additional 8% off, which is fucking crazy.
Also, if you're one of those nice people...
I just can't wait to see where this goes.
DCBS has been announced recently that they are one of 2 corporate sponsors for the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund.
Oh, yeah, CBLDF.
So check out the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. Check out DCBS. I know there's ways that you can donate and do whatever. I don't know if you buy something from DCBS, if any of that money goes to the CBLDF. I would imagine some way it does, since they're a sponsor.
Potentially.
But maybe just do a donation straight to the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund if that's something that you're feeling saucy about.
Yeah. Also, the code that I mentioned, it's Hideous8. Spell out the word hideous, put in the number 8. You can use it one time only, and then after that you can't use it anymore. And the reasoning is they
blow up your computer.
They will blow you up. They lose money when you use that code. Don't feel bad about it, because they're doing it to show you how great their services are, and they have given it to us to give to you. I apologize for whatever that was.
Bring back to us.
So go to dcbservice.com. If you're in the Fort Wayne, Indiana area, check out their home base. That's where their store is. Check out their sister site, In Stock Trades. The name literally means they have the trades in stock. They're there waiting to be shipped to you after you give them money. This is how consumerism works, my friends.
America.
And now a special news bulletin. Hideous Energy thinks you should read this.
Here we are with friend of the show, Andy Preller. We had him on last time, talked to us about...
Like 2 years ago.
It was like 2 years ago. Talked to us about a little comic about Johnny Cash that we had never fucking heard of before. And...
I See a Darkness.
I See a Darkness is
and
what
who
it's
is
called.
I have like half of the guy's name.
Who is it by, Andy?
It's Reinhard Kleist.
That's exactly what I was going to say, but I felt like I was going to say it wrong. All right.
You probably would have, if that makes you feel any better.
I would have sounded dumb, yeah.
So we have Andy back on again to talk about another book that I believe we also hadn't heard of.
Correct.
And he actually sent us a copy of this book, and it's the only reason we're friends with him. And here he is on the show, Andy. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning in Germany right now.
Yes, it is actually, yeah. It's
So-
really, really early.
Everybody make sure you thank Andy for staying up to talk to us, or he's pushing through the sleep to
Time
talk.
doesn't mean anything at 2 a.m. anymore.
No, that's true. It doesn't really exist.
It's just kind of a state.
When was the last time that you really got up at 2 in the morning to do anything?
Oh shit.
I mean, maybe to take a piss. Like, that's maybe the only thing I get up at 2 a.m. for.
So,
But you didn't set the alarm for that, did you?
Sometimes. I'm
Yeah,
weird.
do you? You really want to make sure you get to the bathroom.
I'm very, very serious about when I get to pee. So
I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't remember the last time I woke up at 2 a.m. Actually, that makes me feel pretty bad that we made you do this.
No. I think I made myself do this, so I wanted to do this, and I really love to talk to you. And
we love having you on the show. Last time it was
we could
super
do
awesome.
this. We could do this more often.
yeah.
Well, we love your perspective on comics, and as cheesy and dorky as it is to say, like to be able to talk to someone like literally on the other side of the globe who loves the same things that you do, and is so passionate about it that he's willing to like wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to chat about it. Like it's not something that we take lightly. So thank you very much.
I thank you.
But let's go ahead and tell us a little bit about the book.
So the book is called Babies in Black, as in the song of the Beatles, Babies in Black. It's written and drawn by a rather young guy, Arne Belsdorf. He was born in 1979.
Oh wow, he is young.
And it's actually his second book. It's the first one was not as long as this one. This one's got like 200 pages, and it's the story of Stuart Sutcliffe and Astrid Kirchherr. Stuart Sutcliffe was the first bass player for the Beatles, long before they were famous, in the very, very early days, before they had their first record, before they were known, in the times when Ringo Starr hadn't joined the band, when Pete Best was still the drummer.
Right.
And they played in Germany, in Hamburg, in the very little rock and roll clubs. And tried to earn some money by playing this rather new rock and roll beat music. The story takes place from October 1960 to April 1969, and you get a sense of the very early rock and roll youth culture in Germany, the art students in Hamburg, and how it was for this young group to play in a foreign country in these small clubs. But it's not really the story of the Beatles, but the story of Stuart and Astrid. Astrid was a German art student who got to know the Beatles and befriend them, and who fell in love with this young fella from Liverpool who played the bass and wore the cool sunglasses, and who was actually a painter before or tried to be a painter. He was really, really young back then. I don't really know how old he was. I know that George Harrison was still 17.
Yeah, he was really young
when they played there. So they fall in love, and Stuart wants to paint again, and he wants to stay in Hamburg, and he moves in with Astrid, and it's really their love story, and it ended rather tragically, because he died in April 1962, and that's so the end of the book as well. It ends with his death.
Which I would say is a spoiler, but it happened 50 years ago. So.
Yeah, it's not really too much of a spoiler.
I don't really know how well known the story of Stuart Sutcliffe is, and how many people really know his story. Of course, everybody knows the Beatles and knows the four beats, the Fab Four, as we all know them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that there was another drummer before Ringo Starr, and that there were five people back then, because they had three guitarists then. Paul McCartney still played guitar when Stuart Sutcliffe played the bass.
And I didn't know of his exact story, but he was always one that I had heard of. That, like, people say the fifth Beatle. Like
Pete Best?
No, Sutcliffe. And
Seriously,
Pete Best,
you knew about Sutcliffe?
Yeah, about
because
the bass player.
before I read this book, I had
like-
never heard of Stuart Sutcliffe, but I knew who Pete Best was.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
had never heard of Stuart Sutcliffe.
Well, I looked it up. Like, if you go to Wikipedia,
Of
as
course.
one might do, maybe not me, but there's the article about just called the Fifth Beatle. They attribute that to like 4 different people, and
Yeah.
and that.
Well,
they're both
I
one
know
of
the
them.
term the Fifth Beatle also in connection with Pete Best, actually. Yeah.
Right.
That was the only one I had ever known.
Yeah.
Like when I read this, Stuart Sutcliffe was a complete, just new person to me. He had never ever existed before.
Right.
Well, I think it's a really really interesting story. It's a heartbreaking story. I think those 2 people, they were really meant to be together, as far as one can tell when 2 really really young people meet each other. But Astrid played a rather important role in the lives of the Beatles. She was the one who gave them their famous haircuts in their very early days.
Yeah. And early photos and
She was a photographer and took all the early pictures. And Arne Belstorff actually met several times with her.
Wow.
To talk to her, to interview her. He kind of befriended her to get her story and to work that into his book. She's, as far as I can tell, rather reclusive. I have never seen or read an interview with her. I don't know any pictures of her in her later days. She's still alive. She lives in Hamburg. But as far as I know, she never really told her story. She hasn't written a book, as I guess most of the people
knew the
did
Beatles.
already. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. There's this person, Klaus Voormann.
I was going to bring up
the
Klaus.
story as well.
Yeah.
And he's rather famous himself. He was an art student back then. He was a painter, and then he picked up the bass and he played a little on various records. I think he also played on some later Beatles records. He was, or still is, friends with the ones who are still alive, and he did the cover. I think it was the Revolver album
Yep.
that
Yeah.
he designed the cover to. Yeah.
Yeah.
And him you see all the time when there's a story about the Beatles and he gets interviewed, and he's, as I said, rather famous himself for his work, and he still does prints and drawings of the Beatles and sells stuff and does exhibitions. But her, you never really see her, you never hear about her. But Arne Belstorff did manage it to get a hold of her and talk to her, and she obviously liked this young guy. I mean, this book was published in 2010 in Germany, so he was something like 30 years old when they met, but she kind of took a liking to him and told him her story and worked with him so that he could do this book. So she obviously believed in this project.
Yeah.
And it's well, I think it's not really a sanctioned biography.
Yeah.
Something like that, but I think it tells something about Arne Belstorff and his passion for this project, that he could convince this, well, now rather elderly lady to tell him her story when she never really tells that to the media.
And it's a very personal story too. One of my when I first read it, when you sent it, because we read this like when you sent it, which was like
ago.
a year or two ago.
Yeah, I think last year. Yeah.
Yeah, and we haven't had only now are sitting down to talk about it. And the first time I read it, I liked it. It was pretty slow, and I didn't really get super into it. The second time I read it, which was like 4 days ago, I really liked it. I really fell into it. And one of the things I liked so much was before, during, and after I was reading her history, like again on Wikipedia, and seeing all the little details of her life that are throughout this book.
There's brief information about her in the back of the book where it talks about how she took photographs of the Beatles when they were playing in Hamburg, and then after they started to get famous, she was taking some photos of it, but she refused to go be their photographer after that. And I think in the back of this it says because she viewed herself as a friend, as like they were her friends. Like she didn't want to be seen as like a groupie, I guess, or like someone who is
not as the mop tops hairdresser is what the back of the book says.
Which I think that says a lot about who she is. And I don't mean in a negative way, just that she would view their relationship as
relationship
more than being their hairdresser.
Right.
Yeah, she obviously wasn't in it for the fame.
Yeah,
because,
right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
just her, but she lost the guy that she really loved, and I think just if something like that happens to you, and you're probably a rather sensitive person as an artist, you're not really going to in front of all the cameras telling again and again how this guy died from some illness.
Yeah.
And only want to be known as that girl that used to hang out with the Beatles.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, it might have had something to do with that, too. Like, he used to be in the band. So how could she not think of him all the time being around the band? Like,
And then especially after he died with their success.
well, yeah, like, she would see the new bass player and like, think of Stewart. Like, that's where he used to be.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would have been
hard. That's one of my favorite things about the book is how these characters, not only her, Astrid, but also Stewart, both of those primarily, to where they have so many opportunities. Like he's in this band, which obviously they're not going to know at that point they're going to become the Beatles, but they are, starting to obtain some form of success to where they're able to travel and they have a manager and they're getting paid gigs and they're moving up the ladder. But his passion was for painting. His passion was for painting, and his passion was for her.
Yeah.
And he walks away from that. And again, no way for them to know. And that's not the point, though. I mean, the point is he walks away and goes in a completely different direction in life, and they're happy. They're making all of these decisions.
They're happy.
I
liked seeing John, meaning John Lennon, say, I'm so happy that you found what you love and what you feel like you should be doing.
Yeah. And you're always will be a part of the band, he says at one point.
Yeah, and I mean, even if that conversation didn't truly happen, just the idea, because to me it would make sense. Like John Lennon would say to someone, like, I understand that you have to leave because you found what you love. Okay. Go do it.
Yeah.
Had you go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, obviously they were really good friends. They're just young lads who started a band, as most people do when they're starting bands. Most of them are at school and just friends who hang out with and who picks up a guitar and the other one picks some drumsticks and you put up some amps and just you start a band, and that's what they did. That's just for the passion of it and for the fun of it. And if one of them decides, and John asked him to be the bass player for the band because they thought they needed a bass player and he might do that, and he didn't even play bass before, but actually he was a painter, so he wanted to do that again.
Right.
It's really early here. and he wanted to stay with Astrid, so yeah.
So had you read any Arne Belstorff before this?
I had read his first book, which is called 8, 9, 10. Obviously, it's called in German 8, 9, 10. It's not 8, 9, 10, but it's a melancholy little story about a young guy, a pupil at school who kind of falls in love with a girl. It's a little, it sounds a little stereotypical. It's a nice little book. He was compared a little to Dan Clowes with his drawing style in that first book.
Yeah.
And I guess I had read about it. I don't know. I think I'm rather well informed about the German comics that are published, and somehow I got to know that book and bought it, and I really liked it, and I liked his style. And he did some short comics, or still does shorter comics for anthologies or for newspaper. And then, some years later, this book was announced that it's going to be published, and I had known the story of Stuart Sutcliffe and Astrid Kirchherr, and I liked Arne Belstorff's work that far, and the story really interested me. So it was a sure thing that I bought the book upon publication, and I was really, really impressed. As you said, it is a little slow, but I really liked that, and I was really impressed with his drawings and with his compositions of the panels. I don't know what you thought about it, but it's I think I read it the second time as well. Only now I've read it when it was published, and just yesterday I read it for the second time. But I really remember when I read it first, I was impressed with the panels, especially at the scenes at all the clubs when they play their concerts. How he I'm not sure if I say what I really mean in English, but how he constructs the looks, not how people look, but how they look at each other.
Oh
Right.
yeah,
Like their facial expressions.
Right, and he creates a depth in the panels because he puts people in the foreground that you really just see an arm off or see a leg off, and the main persons are a little in the background. And so you could have always a sense of the room.
yeah.
And in one panel you see Stuart, and then the next panel you see Astrid, and you can see how they look at each other, and you have a sense of what's happening in between, in the space between them, how people stand between them, and you have a non-moving medium and a medium without sound. You get a sense of room and people and noise. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I know exactly what you're saying. The scenes in the clubs, because they are very crowded and very loud, and
He'll do like two
also
pages where they're showing them playing on stage.
right. Which it reminds me of a more in a weird way, it reminds me of a much more serious slice of life. Those particular scenes, Scott Pilgrim,
Yeah.
Brian Lee O'Malley is similar.
He juxtaposes the very static images of people sitting and talking or walking somewhere and talking, and then you'll get to a 2-page spread where it's this band on stage, and it's very frenetic, and there's a lot of energy there.
Mm-hmm.
And the relationship between Astrid and Stuart is, like, I think it is a testament to how good his art is, that the strength of their relationship is so visible, and you can tell how much they love each other.
It's crazy. You look at their faces and you can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, his faces are very, very spare, very small amount of lines, and he does a lot with that with them, and you can see the love on their faces. It's pretty amazing.
I thought about that. It blew my mind how I could tell who Paul McCartney was with the low, like with the small amount of lines that he has.
He and John
on.
Lennon are the most obvious to me. I don't know what Pete Best looks like, so I'm sort of at a loss there.
Of course.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Andy, and I don't know how. Obviously, everyone's experience is going to be different. This book in America was published by First Second, which is a fairly well-known company. They do a lot of awesome stuff. In the back of the book, on the dust jacket, under the author/illustrator's biography, it says, Babies in Black garnered unprecedented success in the German market, breaking out of the graphic novel category and finding fans from all walks of life. When it did come out in Germany, you may have not have been paying
did you
attention.
perceive that?
Yeah, was that something that you perceived in terms of other books, or did it have a big success? And I'm assuming it to some degree it did, because we had never even heard of this book, and you had emailed us about it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, of course, in Germany, comics aren't that popular. It's not that everyone knows this book. It was not a bestseller on the big bestseller lists,
right.
But it is one of the comic books, as was the Johnny Cash one, that got more attention. It was more in the media, and Arne Belsoff got interviewed by the big media outlets, and it was of course written about in the newspapers, because it is a rather interesting story for Germans. It's about the Beatles. That's always popular, as was the Johnny Cash book. It is in some form a case of German history. People love to read about what the Beatles did in Germany. Well, if you ever get to visit Hamburg, there's a lot of Beatles stuff. Of course, there's a place. For blanking on the word, but you get museums, you get tours, everything about the Beatles is always popular.
Yeah,
and so it is a book that the booksellers could give to people who usually don't read comic books. It's a book that you can put in the music section at the bookstore.
Oh yeah.
That you could put in the biography section. That's
Yeah.
not only where the funny books are,
Right.
but you can put it next to other musician biographies, and people might get interested in it. It's in black and white. That always helps. It makes
Right.
makes it more artsy,
Right.
and not just a book for kids, as we all know what comics are.
Right.
Of course.
Right.
So I think it's probably one of the best sellers comic book wise in Germany, but I'm pretty sure I know no one who read it.
Whatever, you know, 2 people now.
Yeah, well, it's. I think I'm really thinking about giving this one to my mother, because she is of the age that the Beatles are roundabout. She was born in 1950, so I really want to try to give it to her if she can handle this book.
Have you,
she
have you
can
ever-
handle a comic book.
I was going to say, have you given her any other comics?
No, not yet, really. No, I give my brother sometimes some, and he sometimes reads one. But yeah, so I think what I wanted to tell you about the German edition. I did not really read the English edition before I sent it to you, but I'm pretty sure it is in English from the first page to the last one, I guess. The German edition is actually bilingual.
I was going to ask you about that
Yeah.
because that's one thing with the lettering. Usually you do, they call them, well, I guess it's just parentheses or brackets if they're doing another language.
Where
Yeah.
you're showing someone speaking
Right,
another
that it's
language.
another- and
I
all-
know what you mean. Yeah.
And in this book, there will be times where characters, you can tell that they were talking another language, but you can only tell by the dialogue to where someone will be having a
Yeah.
conversation and you don't know they're speaking English, but then one of the characters will turn to another character and say, I don't know how to say this word in English to them. So you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
that they were speaking a different
Yeah.
different language. So it's not with brackets and then translated, it's just in English and in German or French or whatever.
Yeah, all the English people just they talk English. You have the English words in the speech balloons, in the word balloons, and in the back of the book you have translations for all
Whoa.
the English dialogue.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
But the word balloons actually are just straight up in German or in English.
I've
Now,
never
do you-
seen a book like that.
Do you think that there's I'm going to ask you to answer a question representing the entire nation of Germany. Do you
That's
think,
what I'm here for.
Yes, we're happy.
do you think that they're like I could say, okay, so I grew up, as you probably know if you've listened to the show, in Brazil. So in Brazil, it's much more common there to learn more than just Portuguese, to learn a second
I think we
language
talked
like
about
English.
this with him last time.
Did we?
Either the off air, maybe.
Well, like as opposed to in the United States, if I'm reading an American comic book that's in English and someone is speaking another language and they print it in its native language, my understanding from the writer is that I'm not supposed to know what they're saying.
Oh well, in America they don't give a shit if you can
right.
speak more
Because
than one
as an
language.
American, yeah, the assumption is you only speak English.
No, they're like, you live in America, you only want to speak English.
So do you think that do you think that was a decision for the German release in terms of pure authenticity to where they wanted, the Beatles to be speaking English and the Germans to be speaking German? Or do you think that it was again, speaking for the entire nation of Germany, do you think that there is a larger, portion of the population that is going to be able to read both?
I guess it was Arne Belsdorf's decision to do it that way. I'm pretty sure for authenticity. What else could it be? And every German has to learn English at school.
Oh,
And
really? Okay.
I remember you telling us that.
So
Yeah, I don't remember
that doesn't mean that we all speak English that well. We're not Scandinavians. They have really, really good English. They really do, because they don't dub the movies. They just subtitle
really?
all the English movies. So their English is way better than ours because we dub all the movies. Nobody here ever sees a film in English if he doesn't want to. But
that's different.
everyone has to learn at some point at least a slight amount of English. So I think you could assume that most people who read such a comic book might understand the English. And yeah, well, if not, you have to look up the translation in the back of the book.
Whatever I know of you, I assume applies to all of Germany. So I'm like, all Germans speak English as well as Andy does.
The only reason I know you speak German, Andy, is because I've heard your podcast.
Yep.
Which
my English might be even better if we meet at another time the next time.
That's probably true.
You should hear my English if it's 2 at noon. So
well,
that's even better.
I was going to say about the comic. It makes me wonder how I would have interacted with it if they would have done that for the English publication, because there is
we wouldn't have been able to read any of it.
No, but think about it though. Like, remember when we read the Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde? There is a shitload of untranslated Spanish in it.
Yeah.
And for the first 2 or 3 chapters, I was like, man, I don't know about this. But then, like, 4th chapter.
See, that's different because it would have been a completely different experience for me and you.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But like in this book, because you do get an absolute sense, not of displacement really, because that sounds sort of negative. If there are a lot of people around you speaking a language you have no fucking idea what they're saying, like that seriously would put a lot different of a spin on some of the scenes here. Like when Astrid and Stuart and Klaus are at these clubs and bars, and the Beatles are up there and they're speaking like this like Cockney Liverpudlian stuff, which is probably wildly offensive to anyone from Great Britain.
Well, speaking of offensive, I was going to ask you this.
Yeah.
Andy,
let's hear it.
Yeah.
Do the Beatles to you as a German native come across as kind of dicks?
In this book,
in this book, not in terms of like their entire lives, but like when I'm reading this book, sometimes they say stuff, and I'm like,
well, no, the one
are they being douchebags, or are they just immature?
Are you talking about the part where he put the comb up to his lip and was like,
that?
"How Hitler"? I was like, "What? Fuck you! What are you doing?"
That, and then like after their first set, they're like, "Don't forget, we won the war."
Yeah, when John said that, I was like, "Oh my god, he's gonna get hit in the face with a bottle."
Like, I don't know. I don't know how.
Show me any movie, book, comic book, whatever that's published in England or in America when it's about Germans and there's no Nazi reference.
Do you think? Oh yeah, I'm sure that's probably the most tiresome bullshit.
Well, see, that's my whole point. Like, it makes me wonder. Obviously, like, I'm assuming that's how they acted at that time, because I doubt that.
Well,
the author would just add that stuff in just for fun. Right. Like, I'm sure that it was. Well, but I wondered how much of it is. Do you look at as, okay, those guys might have been kind of douchebags, or if it's just they're young kids who don't necessarily know any better, or just
I
trying
think
to live life.
They all were really, really young, and you see there's a bit of a clash. You have these young rock and rollers in their leather jackets, and then there are these artsy-fartsy art students who are influenced by French existentialism and are all wearing black and their short hair, and these British guys and all the other German rockers are all having these Elvis Presley hairdos, and I think it's when young scenes get together and they have to get to know each other, you're prone to be a little cocky and just make fun of the others who are strange to you. You're in a strange country. They speak a strange language, and they're just from their youth culture. They're different.
Yeah.
So
maybe I just don't have the balls to be that cocky, because I can't imagine.
No, I wouldn't, man.
Saying any of that stuff.
But it's actually it is. Well, we have to keep in mind it's really just 15 years after the war ended when they met, and so it's in German history it's really early and
still pretty fresh.
Yeah, of course.
That's
all those people are still alive.
Yeah,
right.
Oh yeah, to say don't forget we won the war on the stage in Germany, like
in 1960.
You got a fucking swing and set on you, man. That is ballsy.
Well, I wasn't there in 1960, but of course all the Germans at the clubs, they are really young. They're maybe 20 years old, so they didn't really
they would have been young too, during the war.
Of course, yeah.
Right.
So to them, they've grown up in the aftermath of the war, but they didn't really live in the war. So it might be that they have had a very different connection to the war, or to being the losers of a war that they didn't fight. And I don't really know.
Oh man, that's a great point. Like, no, seriously, like being the loser of a war you didn't fight. Like, you live in a country that you couldn't control it, you couldn't aim it. You're literally born into this world that has been constructed around you.
Yeah. And it's just as ridiculous, to use the same point for the Beatles to say it, because
they didn't fight in the war.
Yeah, George Harrison's 17, so I mean, like, he would have been 2.
It is really interesting to think about it from that perspective. I'm happy that's what you took away from it, David, though, and not the relationship between Astrid and.
No. I love all that stuff. I really like this book. That was one thing that stuck out to me, because I felt like the author was making it a point to show that, because it wasn't just a throwaway line. It happens throughout the book to where they're joking about or poking fun at German culture.
I know what you mean, because it looks almost like they're going to be sort of very difficult to deal with, but then they become very close friends with Astrid and other German people.
And the sense that you get
book.
is they're just like, which is probably, this is the way it is in Brazil, to where it's like, oh, they're Americans.
Yeah.
Because how it was in Brazil was Americans are loud, they're obnoxious. Like, that was the sense people got in Brazil
about to our show yet?
About us. Who, in Brazil?
Because that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I mean, it fits. We are.
Yeah.
You also have to keep in mind that the Germans bombed England to the ground. So these are very young kids who've grown up in a country that's also being rebuilt, and their parents are probably saying to them, those German cocksuckers, they bombed us to the ground, but we're kicked their ass in the end.
Yeah,
So that I think that's their state of mind when they come to Germany. They're coming to a country where they're being told before, those are the ones, and it's actually the ones. They're still alive. Those are people that fought in the war or were in Germany and lived there during the war, who maybe supported the regime, maybe didn't, who knows? But that's the country that came at night with all these planes and dropped bombs on this island.
I think all that stuff is super relevant, and like, obviously the relationship between Astrid and Stuart is the largest part of the book and the strongest part of the book. But when you think about all of the stuff that's going on underneath, like, they talk about, being born on the right side of the wall,
right?
And how they were born on the right side, and they were lucky because of that. And yeah, like you said, like, these guys are coming from a country that got the shit bombed out of it, and then Astrid, this German girl, falls in love with this British guy, and it's never a question of, but we're from different worlds. They just have that spark immediately.
So cool.
Yeah,
that's another one of the things I liked the most about it was how there's, in my head, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, and you can tell me if you disagree.
Yes, I do.
Okay, it was, to me, it was the right amount of Beatles. Like,
it's not about the Beatles.
It's not about the Beatles, but at the same time, there's enough in there to where you're like, you see the seeds of all these relationships start to form, and you don't get a sense that, like, if you had no idea who the Beatles were and knew nothing about them, you wouldn't walk away being like, oh, someday they're going to be, one of the biggest bands in history.
No, yeah.
There's no, like, very winky nod, like, and then, like,
they're not like
song references and stuff.
No, yeah, let's walk through this strawberry field.
There's none of that stuff, but it's that combined with the fact that the image I'm not like a Beatles mega fan. I like the Beatles a lot, but I haven't studied them or anything like that, or like gone through their history. The image in my head of where I'm at of the Beatles has always been not squeaky clean, but fairly straightforward and like clean cut. And in this, it's not like they're doing heroin and murdering people, but it is a little bit more.
That they did do heroin, right?
Yeah, I know, and I'm assuming they killed people too. They were the Beatles; they could do anything they want.
I can't say they didn't.
But you do get a sense that they are a little bit, especially John Lennon. He's a little harsher around the edges in terms of he doesn't. I don't know. I think just the simple
he probably was the
fact of seeing the Beatles swear was something to where it was like, it made it more real. I don't know. I really like A Hard Day's Night, the movie.
Yeah.
But it's not
it's
a realistic
basically.
cinema verite. Like it's an awesome music movie, but I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah. I think they were really, really early in their career. It was at the time when they still played cover songs, and they played cover songs of all the early rock and roll bands,
Right?
And Little Richard and all that stuff, and the leather jackets and the Elvis hairdo. So it was before they came to their own style and were this more poppy band in the suits and the ties. It's the time of the smoke-filled music cellars and leather jackets and a lot of alcohol and 7 hours on stage every night, sleeping in some back room at a at a German cinema.
Yeah.
You said you weren't really aware, or at least Austin wasn't really aware of the story. So I'm assuming you've never seen the movie Backbeat. Have you heard about the movie Backbeat?
Nope, haven't seen it.
I've not.
That's how I learned about the story of Stuart and Astrid. There's this movie Backbeat from 1994, starring Stephen Dorff as Stuart Sutcliffe.
Hell yes.
Deacon Frost.
We love
And
him.
Cheryl Lee from Twin Peaks as Astrid Kircher. Ian Softly directed that one. He did Hackers after that, and he did Wings of the Dove and Inkheart. I looked that up. I didn't know it. But as I said, that movie came out in 1994. So how I became interested in this one was especially the soundtrack. I have that CD right in my hand right now that I bought almost 20 years ago. Because it's all the songs that the Beatles covered in their early days that are featured in the movie. So it's songs like Long Tongue Sally, Twist and Shout, Please Mr. Postman, Roadrunner.
Holy shit, Andy! I'm gonna have to get this soundtrack.
Yeah, we're looking at it right now.
Oh, you're looking at it, so you know what I'm going to say next. The band that played.
That's what we're looking at right now.
That's Greg Daly from the Afghan Wigs, Dave Grohl right after Nirvana, Mike Mills from R.E.M., Dave Pirner from Soul Asylum, Thurston Moore from Sonic Youth, produced by Don Was. This is a grunge supergroup.
Oh, hell
playing
yeah.
all the early Beatles cover songs for a soundtrack.
Holy shit. Henry Rollins sings Love Me Tender. I am getting this.
That's awesome.
See, I didn't really know that one. That one's not on my copy, Love Me Tender.
It's not? It's listed
No.
on the Wikipedia page. Is it not on
Okay.
this? Is it not on the soundtrack?
Not on the copy that I have. I didn't know
It could be
Henry
maybe
Rollins.
just in the movie and not on the soundtrack.
It might
or
be in the
something like
movie.
that.
That's fucking awesome, man.
Is
I had
it
never heard of that.
Is it a good movie? Is it?
It's not spoken well of. I haven't seen it in this almost 20 years. It's supposed to be not so good. I don't really have an opinion anymore because I haven't seen it in such a long time.
Yeah.
I think I liked it all right back then, but I don't really know. What you can do, I think it's on YouTube. This band played at some MTV movie or video music awards. They played some of the songs from the soundtrack during the show, and they did a fantastic version of Helter Skelter, a massive destructive version of Helter Skelter. You have to look that one up. That was really, really impressive back then.
That's awesome.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I love the Beatles. I have a buddy who is a huge Beatles fan, and he went to school at Indiana University. It's one of the bigger universities in our state, and they had a class there actually it was literally just a Beatles class.
Okay.
So he would go to the class and just study the Beatles like all day, and he gave me a couple. They have 2 CDs, and it was a lot of their really early recordings of the like old.
Yeah.
Like Elvis type stuff, and there's some Little Richard covers on there, and they do a cover of Long Tall Sally that is fucking righteous. Yeah. It's sweet.
The one thing that we wanted to ask you about too, Andy, before we wrap up, is about your podcast, which we can't listen to at all. Although I have.
No, I have too.
I've sat here and lettered.
You just have to concentrate, really, guys. Yeah?
I've sat here and lettered and listened to an
I'm-
entire episode of it before, but the whole time.
I'm really confident in you. Yeah?
You think
If you just take the time and listen to it every other week, one day you will understand something.
I think I could probably listen to it and pick out words like I can with Portuguese because
I can pick out words like Batman.
well,
Like,
well, no, like
We talked a lot about Batman by now.
see, for me, it would be if they said things like "good morning" to each other a lot,
Yeah.
or if they like asked how they were, or
what's eraser?
it's Radio Gumi.
Yeah, I could know that word maybe.
Is that right, Andy? Did I say that? Did I butcher that?
Yeah. It was really good. Yeah.
And then like V
I
Gates.
think we never talked about Radiogumis before, but we might
There you
do
go.
a segment about it, especially for you.
Yeah, see, and like I was gonna because I can remember just tiny pieces of conversations because I took German in high school.
Yeah.
And I knew
I still love that one episode. 2 years ago that you did the one episode that you wanted to end the episode, and then you get in a discussion about German. You try to remember every word you ever learned in German. I laughed my ass off when I listened to that
I'm
one
sure
episode.
it sounds fucking awful.
No,
Me
it was
just-
really good. It was so funny. Just you wanted to end the show, and then you put on another like 15 minutes just talking about how you learned German and what you still remember and about your teacher and everything. And then I sat in my little apartment in Germany and couldn't believe that those two guys in Indiana just having fun and remembering German class.
That makes you feel really good, man.
Well, tell us if in case we do have anyone who listens to Hideous Energy who can speak German.
Yeah, or German listeners
Or
other than
learning
Andy.
German, or whatever. Yeah, if you're in Germany listening to Hideous Energy, tell us about your show that we can enjoy. Me and Austin.
Yeah, I started this podcast with a friend of mine who's called Dirk. We publish it bi-weekly. We're not quite as productive as you guys are, but we have jobs. You have jobs too. I know. You're very productive. It's embarrassing what you guys do with all your day jobs and all the projects on the side and writing and lettering and the podcast and everything. It's amazing. But yeah, well, we publish our podcast every other week, every second Thursday, and we just get together and talk about stuff that interests us. We're not a straight up comic book podcast. I guess we talk more about movies because Dirk doesn't read that much comics. But I try to sneak in a comic book every now and then. And we just talk about what have we seen, what we've read, what we've heard, just books, music. Of course, it's a lot of movies, TV shows. We had a discussion about Flatter one time. He described Flatter to me, and we discussed that one. We had one episode.
Wait, hold on. What were you saying? What is
Flatter, the micropayment system. Flatter.
No,
we have no idea. We don't know what that is.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's a German thing. I don't know. I thought it was an international thing.
Oh, I mean, it could be.
It could be.
We live in Indiana.
Yeah, we just don't know it.
It's a micropayment system where you can include a Flatter button on your website or at your podcast, and if one likes what he's read or heard or what he likes on your page, you can just click on that button and you get a certain amount of money for that click.
What?
Oh, cool.
It sounds like something we need to know
Yeah,
about.
probably. We could be rich.
Yeah. You could listen to our discussion, but you wouldn't understand it. Where we try to discuss the pros and cons of Flatter and other options like the Amazon wish list and PayPal and things. And yeah, well, you might look into it. Maybe it's something for you. I'm not really convinced if Flatter is it's really not. It's not the solution for making money off of your podcast. One guy. By now we have one Flatter click, and it earned us 16 cents.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, we're still trying not to spend it too fast. But we had one show where we just cooked and ate. You can listen to us cooking and eating because we did a little competition. We gave away a signed copy of a comic book just to have some engagement with some listeners, and we had this little competition that people should send us emails and just recommend things to us. And one girl, actually it was Dirk's girlfriend, recommended a website with recipes that you where you prepare meals in cups in microwaves.
Wow.
So it was 10 recipes, and we picked out 3 of those and tried them and recorded it. So
That's awesome.
this one episode you can listen to us cooking and eating.
See, that sounds awesome. I would listen to that.
I can. That's the universal language right there. Microwaves.
Eating.
Yeah, eating.
Most of the time you can listen to us drinking. So we always drink beer or wine or sometimes vodka. So we're not sober all the time.
That's awesome.
and that's which makes for heated discussions sometimes when we disagree.
Yeah, I bet.
Influence of alcohol.
It's called Das Alles.
It's Das Alles. The website is www.das-alles.de. We're on iTunes, of course. You can stream on our website. You can download MP3 on our website. We're on Twitter, on Facebook, and everything. And yeah.
What does that mean, Das Alles?
It's all this.
Austin is over here. He goes, he mouths the word the. He knows half of it.
I was like, well, it's not even right. I mean, because if you put them together, I'm not kidding. Like, on the way here, I was doing that thing where I was, like, running down all the German again.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, if I...
little song?
Well, I was like, if I said to Andy, Guten Morgen, that means good morning. Like, I remember that.
Yeah.
But then if I was like, V Gates, and then I said... Meine Freunde, I was like, would that mean my boyfriends? Or like that was where it broke down in my head.
Okay. If you said it like that, wie geht's meine Freunde, it's just like, how are you, friends?
Oh, really?
Boyfriend, we don't really have a term for boyfriend. If someone said friend, or the German equivalent of friend, Freund, if a girl said he is my friend, er ist mein Freund, it would mean he's my boyfriend.
Okay.
If I say Dirk ist mein Freund, he's obviously not my boyfriend. He's just my friend.
Yeah.
we sometimes say fester Freund as in steady boyfriend, steady friend. Yeah.
Okay.
So to distinguish the casual friend and boyfriend thing.
So if Dirk was your boyfriend, how would you say that? Would it be the steady thing?
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say about you, David.
Okay. So it means all of this. Das Alles.
All this. It came about when we first talked about doing a podcast, and the question was, what are we going to talk about? And I said, just about what we talk about when we meet at a pub, or just movies, books, TV shows, comic books, all this. And Dirk said, okay, that's our title then.
That's awesome.
Sweet.
Let's call it that. Das Alles.
That's cool, man.
Cool, man. Yeah, people need to check it out if they speak German, or don't. I mean, just listen to it. I have, and I mean, it was fun, but I don't know what you were saying.
I can tell you my tattoo artist who's from Belgium. She listened to 1 or 2 episodes and she didn't understand a lot of either.
Oh, really?
Well, Andy, thanks so much for talking to us. We know it's super late / early there, and it means a whole lot to us, man.
Thank you for sending the book.
To me too.
Yeah, this was awesome. We definitely want to have you on again and talk about.
Yeah, we
comics.
always love having you on. It's always a ton of fun to talk to you.
Can't let it be 2 years again.
Yeah. And listeners, make sure you check out Babies in Black. It's published by First Second in the States, so check that out. If you're into black and white art and lower key stories,
Slice of life
stuff,
biography
might be for you. So give it a check out.
Cool. So have a nice evening, and looking forward to listening to the show and talk to you at another time again.
Talk to you later, buddy.
Bye.
See ya.
Read 'em and weep.
You ready to cry? You ready to get your crying apple pie on?
Talking about bugs?
No. I want you to stop that voice, whatever that was.
That's worse than your apple pie thing?
I said it in a normal voice. I'm just talking about tone.
Oh.
Timbre.
Talking about books.
That's way better, man. You're a professional now.
Thank you.
First book up is Ultimate Spider-Man, a.k.a. Ultimate Comics Spider-Man.
Nope, that's a dumb title.
Number 26, written by Brian Michael Bendis, penciled by David Marquez.
Colored by Justin Ponzer.
And I don't know who lettered it, do you?
It's Fantagraphics.
Fantagraphics, famous art and foreign comics publisher Fantagraphics.
The entire publisher of Fantagraphics lettered this comic. No, I don't.
You tell me about it, and I'll find out the letter as you speak.
So we jump back into the world of Miles Morales after he has...
lettered by Corey Pettit of Virtual Calligraphy.
That was what I was thinking of, Virtual Calligraphy.
But there's Fantagraphics as a lettering
That's probably
studio.
what I was really thinking of.
Yeah.
So Miles is back to being Spider-Man, of course, like we all knew he would be. Which still, for some reason, didn't completely rob the other issues where he wasn't Spider-Man of their validity to me, which is probably a testament to how much I love this book, and I am completely biased.
Well, I think that, we knew that he was going to go back to being Spider-Man, but one of the strengths in this issue is that Bendis didn't just say, all right, I'm Spider-Man again, and then it's like the last 4 issues or however many it was that he wasn't felt pointless.
Yeah.
Because he goes back into it, and he's rusty.
Yeah.
He doesn't really, not even just in terms of like web shooting, which is one very specific example of him being rusty.
And also one of the biggest parts of being Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You
But
need
also
to,
like
you need to know how to sling 'em.
mentally or emotionally, like it's not totally clicked for him yet to where he's 100% comfortable. At least that's the sense that I got.
Also, Hideous Energy listener Daryl Taylor should be happy. There's not a hint of Miles Morales in this book. It's nothing but Spider-Man.
Oh, really?
What?
I said, oh, I didn't realize that Miles wasn't in it,
I think
of costume.
No, I think it's Spider-Man in every panel. He's in his Spidey costume.
Most of the comic
I say that because Daryl tweeted at us, and he was like, is it crazy that I want Spider-Man to be in a Spider-Man comic? And we were like, shut up, Daryl.
Is it crazy that I don't want Peter Parker to be a dead ghost?
Can you be a dead ghost?
You can. You know why? Because Dan Slott did it. He killed the ghost. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
He's a great writer, man.
I'm
just being a dick.
I tweeted.
Although I do think that he is a bad Spider-Man writer.
I tweeted some snarky shit the other day because I saw somebody retweet Dan Slott about getting booed. And almost every time I see a tweet by Dan Slott, it's because someone is retweeting him, and it is about people talking shit to him or people telling him how bad he is. Like, he won't stop tweeting about it.
Yeah, I saw something he posted on Facebook about going on the Amazing Spider-Man 2 set, and he got to meet Andrew Garfield, and he wrote like a long thing about it. And at one point,
did they troll him immediately? Were they just like, was he a ghost?
No. Well, he said either whoever introduced Andrew Garfield to him had said it, or Andrew Garfield knew who he was, because apparently Andrew Garfield really likes Spider-Man comics and reads them and stuff.
Sounds like he's reading the wrong ones.
But he said something like, "So you're the guy who killed me?"
Oh.
And he was like, "Yeah, twice." And he was like, I don't know if he said like how, but he was like, well, I killed you and then you were a ghost, and then we killed the ghost last week. I don't know exactly what happened in the issue. That's how I know that the ghost is now dead. Ugh. Man, it sucks, and I hate it, and I've never read it.
What if he's a ghost of a ghost?
Oh, it's just dumb enough that it's possible. And then after that, it was another thing where it was like he was bringing it up, the whole like negative outlash, because he was like, how did that go over? And he was like, there were death threats. Yeah. He told Andrew Garfield that he had death threats. Which, I mean, that sucks. You shouldn't threaten to kill somebody.
That's fucking dumb.
I mean, there are some ideas that are truly awful, and you're going to be passionate about it, but don't say you're going to kill them.
That's fine. Be passionate about it, but don't be a fucking asshole.
I can talk about how bad I think that storyline is for way too long, so let's stop it now.
Let's not. Let's talk.
Although, Daryl, if you disagree, which I know you do, why don't you come on the show and tell me why I'm wrong? Because I want to hear someone tell me why Ghost Peter Parker, Peterectomy is another word that we heard.
Peterectomy, yeah.
I want to know why that is good.
That just sounds like a really like third grade term.
It sounds
for
like you're getting
vasectomy.
your dick cut off. Yeah, right.
Dad's gonna go get a Peterectomy.
He's gonna get his Johnson chopped off.
Johnsonectomy.
Yeah.
Ultimate Spider-Man. Issue whatever.
We can't even go 4 minutes into a review without talking about getting your dick cut off.
That's not our fault. That's Dan Slott's fault.
Is it that we... No, it's not.
Peterectomy? He's the one who made that up.
Yeah, meaning that he's cutting Peter out of the equation.
Well, it's his fault that the word exists. It's not his fault that our minds immediately leap
Oh, I thought
dicks.
you meant the word Peter.
Dan Slott is responsible for the word Peter.
Okay, here's my first thought of this book, which is... Not even like to say that it has no Miles in it is true. To say that it has a lot of Spider-Man in it is pretty false. Because the majority of it,
it's Roxanne and
Bombshell's mom.
Bombshell's mom and Bombshell.
And Bombshell. Was she Bombshell and the daughter something else?
I can't remember.
I know that they swore a lot and they weren't super
I'm
memorable.
very happy that she seems to be rehabilitated. Yeah, she's rehabilitated and is done swearing.
They're more interesting to me now than they were when they first showed up, to where I was just like, oh, it feels like Bendis wants to do like an original Ultimate Universe villain.
Yeah.
And they're a mom and daughter team, which
vastly more interesting because of this issue.
Yeah,
immediately.
Mother-daughter team is new. I'd never seen that before.
That is new, yeah.
But they swear and they blow up. Which
the swear thing was only dumb because this is a book where you can't have swearing.
Yeah.
So for every other word to be asterisks and dollar signs and ampersands, it was just distracting.
The daughter's Bombshell. That's her name. My first and primary thought is a very shallow one, but it's an important one.
Okay.
Dave Marquez draws absolutely, hands down, the best webs
They're fucking amazing.
that I've ever seen in any Spider-Man book.
They're fantastic.
And I'm not just saying that because I know he's probably listening.
Yeah.
Because he comments whenever you say that the eyes look bad or anything like that, and you criticize his art.
Or when I talk about that 2-page spread.
Yes.
Yeah.
But seriously, we've made it very clear in the past, before Marquez was ever on the book, about how we really harken back to the 90s Spider-Man, really probably McFarlane and Savage Dragon dude who's loudmouth and kind of Eric Larson, about doing the whole there's a strand in the middle and then a strand that curves around.
Loopies.
Yeah, the loopies, the Spidey loopies.
No, there's
and
a page,
Marquez does something like that when there's a lot of webs being shot, and I'm not joking. Every time I saw a web, in either in an arc or hitting a wall or something, I spent, I'm going to say 3 to 4 times longer than you would need to look at it.
Yeah.
Just looking at it, because they're so great.
Well, the very first time
and the rest of the art is phenomenal as well, because he's a great artist.
There's a thwip.
But dem webs.
Dim webs.
Dem webs.
There's a thwip, and the first thwip that shows up in this issue
It's on the cover. Technically.
inside the interior. Thwip.
I know, but the thwip on the cover, man.
Well, no, I'm talking about the actual.
I know, but
word.
let's talk about how it's good too.
The cover is pretty.
I like the cover.
It's neat. The background has a lot of cool stuff in it too.
Didn't even look at the background.
You didn't see all that cool stuff on the fire escapes in the background? There's a kid hanging off.
No,
with a
dude,
cape.
because I already talked about my boners for the Spidey webs in this. Literally, this is to be crass, the cum shot of spider webs.
That is pretty crass.
It's like an extreme close up. How could I pay? There seriously could have been a kangaroo and a peacock on one of those.
You did it. That's pretty crass.
One of those things that I would not have noticed.
No, yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff.
I see
going
it
back
now.
there.
Yeah.
I don't see any.
There's a
Hideous
kid that's
Energy
gonna.
stuff.
There's
though.
a kid that's gonna die.
There's a death waiting.
There's a kid that's
happen.
gonna kill himself with a cape because he thinks he can fly.
There's 2 guys beating each other's asses down there.
Is he holding? Oh, that's a cane. I thought it was a bazooka at first.
If that was a bazooka, then I don't know what a lot of things are anymore.
It's hard to focus on anything other than that sweet sweep web right in the middle.
I don't want you to do this to me.
Do what?
Make me think about that like you phrased it.
I don't mean in terms of how it looks. I mean in terms of
I don't care how you mean it.
it's a very upfront, the money shot.
Yeah.
That would have been a nicer way to say it. I went with cum.
Lightly grosser.
Surprising no one.
I like this issue. It's kind of strange because, well, first of all, Taskmaster gets introduced, which this is the first time Ultimate Taskmaster has shown up, right?
Yes.
Well,
I don't know why, but in my head it sounded like you said Ultimate Taskmaster.
What do you think about his design? Which Dave Marquez might have done.
I like it okay. I mean, I'm not enamored with Taskmaster like our friend Jason is.
No,
That's his favorite character.
Yeah.
I always thought that I thought his powers were really cool when I was younger. I like Jason always liked the pirate costume. I didn't. I liked the updated one, which is closer.
Really?
Yeah, which is closer to what this
costume's
is.
awful.
It's almost the same costume.
I don't.
The mask is different. Is about the only thing. It doesn't look like a skull. It looks kind of like a Mortal Kombat mask. Which I saw it in Gail Simone's Agent X. It was that Deadpool book.
It's so bad. This costume
looks pretty close to that one. So
it's
you
not
clearly
that,
don't like it.
This costume doesn't. This costume doesn't make me want to barf.
I don't like when he has the mask itself on.
I really don't like the mask.
I don't really like the mask either. I like the completely unnecessary yet awesome rags that he's wearing around him.
See, he looks sort of post-apocalyptic.
Which is probably unneeded in metropolitan New York.
It depends. He's a bounty hunter, obviously.
Yeah, and I mean, how is that needed? What about the Judge Dredd trash can thing on his shoulder?
A shoulder pad?
I don't know that that's a shoulder pad.
Trash can? What?
It looks like it's made out of trash can aluminum.
What do you see when you see a knight? What are they wearing?
like day and night, or knight?
What? They?
No, no, day and night, like that kind of night, like nighttime, or do you mean a night like of the round?
My question was, what do you see when you see a knight? What are they wearing? Do you still think I could be talking about the opposite of
I
day?
didn't hear the second part.
Okay, I was like, what the fuck?
But even then, they're wearing the tapestry of the dark. Okay. I can answer any question you have.
I like that answer.
No, I think he looks cool. Here's the thing.
Is that a machete?
I think so. I don't really like his mask.
No, his mask's not good.
I like the rest of his look. I am not, at this point, in terms of my age, because as a kid I'm not a reader of like 90s comics. So the visual aspect of it is going to be about 20% of whether or not I like it. So it's hard for me to look at it.
Of any comic?
No, of like I look at him and I'm like, all right, it's Taskmaster, whatever. Because at this point, I'm much more interested in seeing what his character is like, which we don't see.
No, we
don't. We see that he's a bounty hunter, which isn't a flaw or anything, but Bendis hasn't taken the time to talk about him.
His fucking intro issue.
We don't even know if he has that same power of like the same kid on Heroes did, or whoever it was on Heroes had it.
We do know that he is endorsed by Bluetooth, because he is in fact wearing a Bluetooth headset.
Yeah, I like the.
So he also might play Xbox a lot.
I like the square in the middle, like on his over his neck.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I think that's holding his raggeds.
It's the same. It's the same symbol on the 616 shield.
Oh yeah,
which I thought was a cool touch.
Yeah, it's okay. Like it's not as bad as the costume that you like, the updated Taskmaster from the 616.
It doesn't really look that different.
It does. You're misremembering it.
No, I'm not. It looks almost the same. Only the old one has like a very, very, very. It looks like a skull. He looks like his face is a skull, and then it's more piratey.
He has wait, what? The old one? Mm-hmm. The updated one.
No. The old one is more piratey. He kind of looks like.
I'm talking about the one after that. That's the one you like?
That's the one I liked growing up. I haven't read it. Like I haven't seen that costume in years, decades at this point.
He's got
maybe
a
decade.
Lot of straps on.
Yeah, Did you
find a picture, Emery?
I read that book when I was like 14, 15.
Your opinion can't change since then.
I'm just saying, like when I looked at it at that point, it's the same way Jason looked at his when he was 15 and was like, "This guy looks cool. He's a pirate with a skull face."
He's not a pirate.
He looks more like a pirate. He's got the
Buccaneer boots on.
He's got the boots and then
a cape.
Yeah, and then a skull face like all pirates have. He's more pirate-esque than any of the other ones.
What world do you live in where the night, the opposite of daytime, that's his original costume?
Yeah,
Emery.
that's the old one, Emery. It also looks like it's drawn by Rob Liefeld.
It might be. He does have giant tits. Let's talk about this issue more. Bombshell's mom, whose name
Agent X.
I can't remember, gets kidnapped by Roxanne.
It's like Kablam or something.
It's Kablamo.
Yeah.
Which I believe are the makers of Kid Toys.
Is it like Boom Bam Dynamite?
It might be that.
Is that her mom's name?
By the way, Roxanne is in the other issue that we're going to be talking about today. Have they always had a presence in the 616 universe, or no?
Yes.
Have they?
Yep.
Been living a very different life than I thought I was.
Since the creation of Sandman, which was like volume 3, 4.
Wait, what?
Of Ultimate Spider-Man?
In the 616.
Oh, in the 616?
Yeah.
That I'm not sure. The Ultimate, I mean, obviously I can attest to that. But
Yeah. I know they've had the Ultimate thing, but
I think they've been around for a while. In my head, they're not as far-reaching back as like AIM or.
Well, because they get mentioned in the Thor issue we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But we'll get there in a second. This issue, you do see more about Bombshell's mom, and like we've already said, it makes them infinitely more interesting than they were when they were just cussing and blowing shit up. Because you see Bombshell talking on the phone to...
Since 1974, Roxanne 616.
Wow. Yeah. See Bombshell talking on the phone to her boyfriend, and it looks like they're breaking up, and then Peter and Jessica...
Or he's just being a dick. Peter's dead.
I feel like shit.
He's dead.
Peter.
I got into like a no joke, bordering on me being pretty mean to my wife about Miles being Spider-Man.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm trying to remember what it was that I brought up. Somehow Miles, it's because we put, I like to say down payment. It's really a deposit on a cat. And, we were trying to figure out like what we should name it when we get it and stuff. And I was like, what about Miles? Like, Spider-Man. And she was like, Miles isn't Spider-Man. And I was like, All right, what level am I going to start this off?
Yeah, where
at?
should I aim for with anger or meanness?
But it got to the point where, like, I know Amanda's just trying to be antagonistic, like, to try to tease me and prod me about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, all right, I'm going to run you through a timeline, breaking it down to where it's like, Peter is murdered.
Peter dies.
He is in the ground somewhere. Now Miles is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I was pretty mad.
And then just imagine how confusing that's going to be when they slam the 616 and the ultimate universes together like they are prepping to do.
Is it going to be more confusing than Peter's ghost being dead?
Potentially.
No.
Potentially, because Peter's body is still there.
I don't think it'll be confusing because that's the nature of comics in terms of, like, we've always had parallel universes and stuff.
Yeah.
Do I want it to happen? No. Will I keep reading it? Yes. I don't care.
It depends for me.
I wouldn't stop reading it. I'm going to keep reading it. It's just not ideal. I'd rather the universes be separate so that it's its own thing. But
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
reading this book since I was 12 or 13, so
Yeah.
it's my universe, so
Oh,
to speak.
Yeah, I guess it just kind of depends on what Bendis and team does. But I also just don't want them to combine the universes at all. Marvel, you heard it here first. Don't do it.
They didn't hear it here first. They've been hearing it for a long time.
Which I don't get. Like,
I don't
let's
know.
go back to this issue.
Nah, I don't know.
Because obviously you can't let the fans dictate what you do.
Sure you can.
You can.
DC.
No. What do you mean?
They
They did the exact opposite of that.
You're right. I guess it depends on...
They're just like, what do you want, fans? It doesn't matter. We're going to burn this to the ground.
I guess it depends on how you look at it, but yeah.
Anyway, this issue, I like this issue. It's not...
It's all right.
Yeah, it's not a ton of crazy great.
I'm never
things or
really...
anything.
Bendis, this is a pretty standard issue in terms of ground that he's covered, in terms of story, which is we show someone's past. It was with a company that screwed them over. There's menacing figures that don't have a whole lot of depth in terms of character.
No.
So other than just being like, I'm the bad guy
I'm
because
bad.
I look bad.
Here I am being bad.
The Rock's on, like, Brain Trust is an interesting idea that he explored in an awful miniseries, so you don't get to see that here. But, like, Dr. Miller is Layla Miller, which is cool.
Yeah.
And she could be an interesting character, but we haven't explored that. So, like, it's okay. The stuff about Bombshell and her mom is interesting. Obviously, the stuff about Miles and Jessica Drew is my favorite.
Well,
but
there's
not a
very
whole lot
little of
that.
it in this issue.
Not a lot.
This is I think this it's a bridge issue.
Yeah.
He's using this to set something up or to get you somewhere. I think what he wants to do is make Bombshell a new hero.
He's probably going to try to bring her if they...
Well, I think she's potentially going to Peter. I just want Peter to be alive so fucking bad.
One thing I do...
And I love Miles.
I do hope... Well, go ahead, because this is going to spin off into... Go ahead.
Well, I think Miles and Jessica are going to end up teaching Bombshell to be a hero.
Which is
trying
cool,
to
but
at
again...
least.
We've done this already.
Yeah.
Bendis has done this in Ultimate Spider-Man with the Human Torch, with Liz Allen, with Rick Jones.
Yeah.
Like it's common ground.
I think they're going to do that. Potentially, he might also be doing that with Cloak and Dagger, who have already shown their heroic side somewhat.
Yeah.
I like the idea of Cloak. That was probably my favorite part of the issue, when Cloak said to Dagger, "I don't know what I am."
Yeah.
And I think I took it from a couple different levels. Like, he doesn't know what he is, meaning he doesn't know, like, what kind of person he is anymore. But also, he, like, literally doesn't know what he is made out of.
Oh, yeah. He can suck people into, like, darkness hell.
Yeah.
And doesn't know what that means or if that is a thing or if it's a spiritual thing or if it's a science thing.
Yeah. That was probably my favorite part. Although the part with Bombshell on the phone was also really good.
You know what my favorite part were? My favorite part were webs.
The webs.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not my favorite issue by any means. It's also not a bad issue.
It's not.
It's just it's okay.
What would you give it out of 10?
5.
I'd give it a 5.5.
Yeah.
Do you want to just sit in silence for a little bit more?
Let's just think about this for a while.
Let's think about what
I saw someone on Twitter talk about how if it would be interesting to see if, depending on if they merge the universes, who they brought over and who they didn't.
Yeah.
Because I think it would be cool if they brought over Gwen Stacy, because suddenly there's a younger version of a girl who died tragically and affected a ton of people's lives who's there again.
That could be interesting.
I just don't know what they're going to do with everybody else. Like, if they bring Mary Jane over, there's 2 Mary Janes.
It's really, I'm not kidding, man. It's going to piss me off a lot because that immediately takes away Aunt May. Like, any relationship that Aunt May had with Peter in this universe is going to feel tainted to me, and like it means a little bit less.
I think that if you keep it, here's what I think will happen if indeed they merge the universes. I think that miniseries wasn't great, but the good moments that it had were when you had Mary Jane, who is not over Peter and is not dealing with it, seeing him and breaking down, and you have Aunt May. All that stuff is really interesting. If they do that and they focus on that stuff, great. But beyond that, we're going to have to deal with the fact that you have all these characters. So what I think will happen if they do, in fact, merge all the characters together
is not bring some.
Well, no. Let's say they do bring everyone.
Yeah.
Is that like Iron Man or somebody's going to be like, I found this pocket universe, or I found this other world, or like,
so they're
just going to go back to the way it was, and in a sense, where it's going to be.
Why would they do that?
Sales.
It just doesn't make any sense. Like to put Miles
is my guess. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
It doesn't make any sense from a sales standpoint for Spider-Man, because the films are not going to be starring a black person as Spider-Man.
Well, they're Peter Parker.
Yes.
Peter Parker coming back.
He's Scottish?
Peter Parker will come back in the 616.
He will.
There's no doubt about that.
Oh,
so I mean,
everyone knows he's coming back.
He wouldn't like replace him or anything. I don't know, man. Either that's exactly what they're doing, or they're trying to do a bait and switch. The only thing that would truly and wholly make me mad is if they shut down the Ultimate Universe
completely
and it was gone, and those characters were gone.
That
would be very, like, that would be.
I'm not kidding.
And
dude.
all the things that have happened, Superman dying, like anything with like the Batman dying stuff, like Peter Parker and Mary Jane's marriage, like the One More Day stuff.
Yeah.
There has never been anything that I have reached like those levels of like
anger.
People going in and being like, cancel all my Spider-Man books. I'm never buying Spider-Man again.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't swear off reading something because I think that's dumb.
If you get rid of Miles Morales,
but I would have a really hard time.
No, dude, I'm not kidding. If they shut down the Ultimate Universe, I'm 100% serious when I tell you this. If they shut down the Ultimate Universe and just get rid of all of those characters, I don't want to record a show that week. I want to record a show the next week when we have had some time to think about it, because I am not confident that I would be able to talk about it. And I don't mean without crying. It would be anger.
Oh yeah, I'd be mad. I don't know, like, it's the whole universe is tough for me because people typically talk about it online. It seems like the majority is with condescension
disdain.
Or like disdain, where people don't really like it, or they talk about how like it never worked, or Marvel. It's always looked at like Marvel didn't know what they were doing,
Marvel's
and that's
failure.
why Ultimatum happened, to try to wipe everything clean. And so like it's been this thing of Marvel's where they don't know how to maintain it, and that stuff is tough for me because I've been reading it for like 12 years.
Yeah.
So for one long year, you count 12, I count it as one. I go in 12s.
Then year.
So that stuff's hard for me to kind of all put together in my head. But like
Well, see, what you were saying earlier about the Spider-Man thing, about the strongest portions of that story being those moments when Aunt May did see Peter.
Yeah,
and
small moments.
MJ did see Peter.
Yeah.
Imagine that for 5 fucking years, where that's it.
Well, see, they
rammed that storyline.
Well,
into the ground.
They wouldn't be able to do it. Like it. That's why, to me, it doesn't make any sense if they were to bring all the characters over, because, like, what are you gonna do with 2 Aunt Mays? You know what I mean? Like, and I mean,
it's pointless.
Aunt May in the Ultimate Universe looks a little younger.
Yeah.
But she's not like 20. I mean, it's not a different character in terms. I mean, she's more interesting, I think. But
she is.
But like, you have too many. Like, okay, bringing over Miles.
Yeah.
I could see that working. It's not ideal, and I wouldn't like it necessarily at first, but I'd keep reading, and I could be like, all right, Miles is a different character. Miles is a different Spider-Man. Miles is a different... And Peter Parker would be, too, in terms of how he was written, because he was younger. But Miles is a very different, visually, personality-wise. He's different enough that he could be introduced in the 616 and be a new character.
Yeah.
The other people are the same. I mean, for the most part, I think they're written better, but they're not radically different.
Well, most of it is...
so I think readers would be confused to where they're like...
Readers would be super confused.
Which Mary Jane is this? Or like, which Jonah Jameson is this? Or like, is this which Osborn? You know what I mean?
Almost all of the storylines that I can worry about them doing are just the most cliched. We're merging these two worlds together, doppelgangers type shit.
Yeah.
Which Fringe gets into in certain episodes, and there are certain episodes
Which is fine.
that really work.
I was going to say, if you're like that part of the main storyline of that show that is based around that premise.
It is, but
The 616 is not.
No, it's not. That's why people are going to be like, and then J. Jonah Jameson showed up, but it was alternate Jonah. And
Another possibility that I also wouldn't be thrilled about is if they introduced the characters and then kind of left them in that same stable that they leave the Runaways in, and any characters that show up in the Runaways universe, like Chamber or like these more obscure, or like the Slingers with the Z, like those dudes.
Yeah, that's
like
another
Ricochet
thing,
and those guys, which those guys still exist.
Ricochet's so cool,
but they only pop up when they need someone weird or offbeat. Yeah, and those dudes would always show up in Runaways. So my fear is that they would bring all those people in, and then in like a quote unquote teen Marvel book, it would be like, oh, here's Miles Morales and Genki showing up.
Miles is too good of a character to do.
Oh yeah, I know. And the Runaways are too good of characters too, but yet they've been shelved. I mean, 2 of them are in Avengers Arena, and I'm pretty sure one of them just got killed.
It's probably because BKV wrote them first, and then after that, everyone who wrote them afterwards couldn't reproduce the success that BKV did.
Yeah. Because, I don't know. Were they not successful, or was it just...
That was always how I perceived it. I mean, I might have been deluding myself. Or
you mean in sales or in terms of quality?
Both.
Oh.
Sales because of the quality.
Well, Whedon's was good. Terry Moore's wasn't.
I couldn't get into Whedon's, man.
Whedon's was, I thought was good. It's not as good as BKV's, but I didn't think it was bad. But anyway, I mean, it makes me wonder from a business or like fiscal point of view how Marvel views the Ultimate Universe. Like, is it something that
probably
they need to do something with in terms of like they need to lower the amount of books they have coming out?
I really hope it's not this, that they view it as something that they can't advertise their film franchises through.
Oh, I don't think they would view it as that, because their film franchises are basically, in terms of visual style,
so what?
Like,
Andrew Garfield's not Miles Morales. That Spider-Man,
no.
That Spider-Man book.
I mean, their movies.
No, I know, but
like Marvel Studios.
I do too, but from a Marvel executive standpoint, an Ultimate Spider-Man book, if Iron Man shows up in it, that's not going to be the Iron Man that looks like Robert Downey Jr., or that's not going to be the Captain America that you see in those films. It's not going to be the same Thor.
I don't think that would be the case. Only because they have so many books that don't in any way connect with other media. Like, what's that book called? It's an X-Men book that has the dude with the crazy hair. I can't remember. X-Men Legacy, I think, or like X Legacy or something.
Who's the main character in it?
I have no idea. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's such an obscure character.
That's it.
What?
You have no idea. It doesn't matter to them.
No, I know, but yet they published that book is my point.
Well,
like, they have all these other books. I don't think that they would get rid of it solely because they can't.
I mean, the only reason I think that with this is because it's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And even though Sony is putting Spider-Man film out, they are still licensing things with Spider-Man. That world is still a part of their world. Other characters, come over from other franchises within the Spider-Man franchise.
Part of the reason I don't think it's that is just because they have of who's writing it.
No, yeah, Bendis has he basically has free reign, but also
carte blanche.
They didn't have a Black Nick Fury in the 616, and they changed that. So now they don't need Ultimate Nick Fury.
They
don't need him.
I mean,
I wish.
I don't even know what they're doing with that character.
No one fucking does.
It's in Secret Avengers, so some people do.
No. The writers of Secret Avengers don't even know.
Okay.
It's proof.
Okay.
Fact. Second book up, Thor.
Number 12.
Written by Jason Aaron. This one is not illustrated by Esad Rabik. It is illustrated by Nick Klein. And the letters are by
Joseph Bino, virtual calligraphy.
And then the covers by Esad Rabik.
Yeah, the colors are by Nick Klein too.
Oh, yeah. I liked the art in this issue. Didn't like it as much as Esad Rabik, but it does have a different feel.
It reminds me of it reminds me a little bit of what's that dude's name? He used to do covers for Thor.
I don't know.
He did one of my favorite covers of all time with Thor's holding the iPod.
Is it Carrie Nord? No, it's not.
No, it's what's his name? He did so many covers for Marvel, and then he was the dude at a con where he was like, "Yeah, Marvel kind of sucks my balls."
What?
Peace, and he like left. There was like a real like controversial thing at a con where he talked real bad about Marvel and the people there.
If he told Marvel to suck his balls,
I think he's back at Marvel though, so they must have liked his balls. I don't remember his name. I'll look it up.
the art reminds me sort of
It's got a Steve Epting thing.
it's
going
like
on.
Steve Epting sort of mixed with like late Alex Maleev. I fucking hate Who We Are. I'm so pissed off that just came out of my mouth.
Why?
It's just one of those like things. It's like you're doing this really like Bridget Fonda, like early 70s.
But you're not being like, the feel of it really reminds me of like 90s abortion clinics mixed with like a freedom, justice, and like sugary feel. Like you're not just saying random stupid things. You're talking about like art, like what it looks like.
I'm not saying stupid random things, although the abortion clinic thing is somewhat relevant because this issue is pretty preachy.
You didn't like this issue?
I
thought it was pretty good.
I don't know that I would say I didn't like it. I was just annoyed that it was immediately just like message capital M.
Yeah, I didn't get that at all.
Because it's basically Thor visiting a bunch of different people to help them.
I'm going to throw up if I can't remember that artist's name. You keep talking so I can try to force this down.
I don't know that I can do that now.
What?
It's hard for me to talk while you're actively searching for things.
Why?
Well, first of all, the screen right now is filled with 1,600 pictures of cats. So that's distracting.
Don't look at the cats.
I can't not. So I'm not going to continue discussing this issue.
Well, why do you think the issue is about him going back to Midgard because he hasn't for a really long time, Avenger Thor, because old Thor, King Thor, shows up at the end.
He does.
Which I didn't think was going to happen.
Well, the message at the very end of the issue is that Thor always has to go back to Midgard, which I think is an interesting idea. And I think the issue doesn't. It's not that I dislike the issue, but Zane Austen Grant, is that who it is?
No.
Well, what name was that?
It's some dude's website, zanegrant.org.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome, Zane.
For that plug.
It's just really preachy, man. Like, Thor's talking about, or he goes to meet that girl who is
Marko Djurjevic.
Marko Djurjevic.
Remember him?
Djurjevic, I do.
He did a ton of covers for Marvel.
Yeah.
Like 4 years ago. He did them all the time. He's a good cover artist.
We used to talk about him a lot on Alter Ego.
We used to say his name wrong and probably offensively too.
Probably. He talks to that girl who's graduating from S.H.I.E.L.D.
Which I liked her, and she's obviously going to be in the series.
I did like her, but she also was immediately like, hey, I want to talk to you about pollution and how fucked the world is. And I was like, oh my God, okay, I get it. Like, it just seems
Man, I'm
so
surprised
forced.
that you thought that. This entire series has been about the role that gods play in helping the humans.
Yeah, and there's parts of this issue where that seems very interesting to me. But then there's also parts of it where he brings real-world aspects into the book, and it seems very... It seems like it clashes too much for me. Like when he goes to talk to Natalie Portman in that one
Jane Foster
scene, yeah, because she had breast cancer.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Jason Aaron wrote that in.
I doubt it, because it seemed like it was existing continuity.
Kinda, yeah. Like that part, that was the part where I was like, this doesn't make sense to me now. Because she's a breast cancer survivor. I think either I
don't think she's a survivor.
She's alive.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, but the cancer's not gone in terms of like she's looking at it as she is.
Okay, yeah. Well, I don't know if
I think
actively
she's dying
has
of cancer. Yeah, because he wants to help her.
That was the thing. He was like, "I'm gonna help you," and she was like, "No, I want cancer."
That is not at all what she said.
She obviously
what she said to me made perfect
sense. I want cancer, but
she said, "I'm a human. I'm from Earth.
Correct.
I am a scientist. Like, if science isn't working in this regard, I'm going out the way I want to go out." She was making her own decision about how she wanted to deal with death, and she said that she wanted to die that way, like a human.
It was very hard for me to reconcile this world where a god shows up and is literally solving all of these problems, and he could cure this person, and she could live without having cancer.
He could. I mean, he could try.
He could. I don't. Yeah, he wasn't saying like 100% you're going to be cured.
He was going to go look for in other worlds for potential ailments or cures or whatever.
I don't know. I guess
But it's not. But it's not that he can't. It's that she doesn't.
Well, yeah, I know, but
it's her choice, not his.
I guess I thought about it from a cancer survivor's perspective, or even like the family member of someone who had died.
I thought about it when I read it too, because I was like, okay, we are in a universe where cancer could be cured.
Yeah.
Why doesn't Marvel do that? And I think honestly probably the reason that they do is that there are going to be too many people that it's a very real thing.
Well,
and
see,
to make
I know
it not relatable or not.
That's why that aspect of the book struck me strangely.
Because there are some works, especially you see it a lot in like dystopian futures, like Elysium or something like that, where it's like, we've cured cancer, like we don't have to worry about that, or AIDS is no longer an issue, or something, and that's part of that world. But the Marvel Universe is supposed to be basically our universe with superheroes.
It is, but that's the thing, is you see Thor affecting all of these very human things, and I like the idea of something being outside his realm of fucking influence.
Yeah,
like he can't do anything to cancer. He
can.
That's the thing.
He could.
I think that's the problem. Then is that Jason Aaron actively had Thor be like, "I'm going to go take you to try and cure this from you. Like these things could help you," and she was like, "No, I don't want that. I want to either be cured by Earth's medicine or not at all." It's also just so on the nose where she's like, you can't always be a god. There's some things you can't just be a god and punch with your hammer or something like that.
Yeah, she says, just because you can't save everyone, it doesn't mean you're a bad god. Sometimes you have to let the humans save themselves.
I think that's a message that is one of those things that he shouldn't have had them say. Like, and just show that. Show them talking or show them interacting rather than having one of them be like literally explaining the situation to you.
Another thing she says is, we're not going down that road, not ever again. No secret healing fountains, blah, blah, blah. You know that sort of thing always comes with a price. She says, I'm a doctor. I'll fight this battle with plain old earth medicine, and if this is how I die, I will go down swinging, but on my own terms. I'm fine with that, man. To me, that's a character making a very, as much as it is frustrating for me in terms of he can save you, that's her choice, not mine. And it's not Thor's either. Yeah. So to me, that rings more true than
I just think that
them trying to find a way and then not finding a way and all of.
But that seems interesting to me.
Not me, because in that point, basically what the Marvel Universe is dictating is that even in this world with completely extraordinary things and abilities and worlds and dimensions, cancer is still incurable, which to me doesn't make sense. It would make sense to me that if Thor could go to another dimension or world, he could find something that would either prolong her life or whatever else.
That's probably why it's problematic to me, is because...
Well, I think, to me, I'd rather have a character make a conscious decision on her own to deal with it the way that she wants to deal with it. Because, A, that's more realistic, because that kind of stuff happens in real life all the time when people want to be taken off of life support.
Well, they do.
Or they
do.
They don't want chemo or whatever else, and they want to go out the way they want to go out.
It seems
it's hard.
It seems like a plot point that has too many, too many downsides to it, where he had to write in that she says there's always a price when that kind of stuff happens. He had to write in, I want to try and fight this with Earth medicine alone. Like, he had to counteract all of these very obvious arguments against having something like this show up, because I think the reason I think it's problematic is because it seems like it chips away enough at the fictional universe and lets the real world in for a tiny second in a bad way, because Thor literally could cure her.
Yeah.
And even though she chooses not to, she wants to.
I think another part of it is that she has a husband that she loves and has a life now that it isn't with Thor. It's with someone that she is truly happy with.
Yeah.
And she wants her life to end on those terms and with that life.
It's just so. It just doesn't make sense to me from that aspect for her to be like, I'm happy now and I want to potentially die. Like, I don't want death.
Yeah, she doesn't want to die.
But I also don't want help. Like, I don't know. Maybe
she doesn't want.
Maybe it's too difficult for me to understand, and that's why
she doesn't want.
Why I have a hard time with it.
Otherworldly help, basically.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, the idea of Thor as a god on Earth, and having him do like literal God things and kind of like sort of Christian God things where he's giving people food. It's almost too Jesus-like for me, where he like this guy's on
and
death.
an odd twist. I wouldn't say that that's just a Christian.
Well, no,
thing.
no, but
that's just good, like good deeds.
Well, good deeds is but he's going to death row and giving a guy this fruit. It's the last fruit of its kind in the entire universe.
Yeah.
And then after that, he goes and feeds some homeless people.
Well, you find out it's the dude's last meal.
Yeah.
And it's this fruit. He says it tastes like.
Row.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's not like he just handed a dude, like, it's his last meal.
he throws a fruit in the guy's
He's maintained
face.
this relationship with this guy.
Yeah.
And the guy says it tastes like nothing I've ever had, yet something I've always known that I wanted.
But also,
Which is
like,
pretty sweet.
that is sort of a problematic scene to me because, like, why is that guy on death row? And why is Thor, like, what did that guy do?
Either it's in
to get on death row.
Either it's in previous continuity or you don't know, which I was fine with either way because I liked the idea that Thor was visiting and built a relationship with this guy that's in prison. I thought that was really cool.
It's an interesting idea, yeah.
And you get the sense that the guy has found some type of redemption because he says, "Why couldn't I have met you when I was still young and foolish?" Which
he doesn't say that. He says, "Why couldn't I have met a god like you?"
Yeah, I mean Thor's a god.
He is, but I see that's the problem is it directly clashes with the idea that they're pushing forth in the films, which are they're not gods, they're just like aliens.
Well, I mean, it's going to be. Well, no, it's not. I don't think that they push that idea. In fact, in the movies, they directly say in the olden times, people viewed them as gods.
I know, and in this issue, they're doing the opposite of that. They're saying he's a god.
No, that dude is.
The rest of the issue, they do too, man.
It depends. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think it depends on who you are because, like, when I read Jane talking to Thor about it, I get the sense that she's talking about him as a god because that's what Thor and the other Asgardians and the other universes they consider themselves.
Yeah.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe, it doesn't bring in the idea of other planets and other.
Do you think Jane doesn't consider him a god because she directly calls him a god?
Right, but she says she's trying to make him feel better about himself. She's not saying like, you're a god, like you are a god. She's saying like you're not a bad god. It makes it sound more like. I don't understand
the difference between that though, because if she's
calling
him a god,
to me it makes it more sound like because that's how he views himself. Like in the cinematic universe, since we were making that comparison, they're the only other quote-unquote aliens that we see.
Other than the Chitauri.
I mean in the Thor movie.
Oh. They're not, though. The Frost Giants.
Okay. I'm talking about from, like, Earth's perspective. Like...
That Earth people see?
As viewers of the movie, yeah, we see the other ones.
Don't we see Frost Giants?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, like, Earth.
No. They don't see any Frost Giants. They see the Destroyer thing.
Yeah.
That whole idea is, and I don't know in the movies if they call themselves gods or not. I don't remember.
I can't remember either.
I think that Thor does. I think that he does refer to himself as a god. Obviously, in this series, with that Jason Aaron's doing, that's a big focus. From the very first page of the very first issue, I think it was the first page, that little girl is praying out to a god because her planet has no gods.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of a terminology thing than anything else.
I don't think it is.
Because none of these gods are creating life. So I think that
there's
using the word God like that as opposed to like an all-knowing, like creative deity that like doesn't interact.
But that's the thing. Like that girl prayed to Thor and he heard her prayers.
Yeah,
that's like it's not necessarily omniscience, but he's connected enough that if someone prays to him, he can hear them. Like that's not being separate from everything. If you hear when someone prays to you, that is a very big thing.
Like, yeah, I guess it depends on how much you want to take in. I don't mean you necessarily, but like
the reader, how
much you want to take in and apply your concept of what God means in this world. Well, because when I read these comics, I don't think about Thor as I think about a deity or God with a capital G.
Yeah.
In my world,
but he is a god with a capital G in this.
Not a capital G, but yeah, he is a god.
He is. All the G's are capital.
Every letter is capitalized.
I stand by my statement.
It's not capitalized. They're gods, lowercase g.
How can you tell?
You can tell in their font. Their font's lowercase. Some of them are. I'm talking about like quote unquote the one true God with a capital G that you see in the Bible. Yeah. How much of those concepts that you put into it are going to determine. I don't read it that way. To me, they're they are gods, but that word to some of these people, to Thor himself, to his family, doesn't mean the same thing as it does to like me when I think about God. It's not the same thing.
I don't know. I mean, I can't say that it doesn't mean or that it does or doesn't mean the same thing to you, because obviously that's only something you could know.
Which is ironic because I believe in God, and you maybe flip a coin, do or don't.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
And I don't look at it that way when I read this book.
Well, no, I think Jason Aaron is pushing that forward as Thor being a god, because he literally addresses how they were taught.
Yeah, he has been since issue 1.
Yeah, but I don't think he's pushing it as a lesser god, or it reminds me of he might be. I don't know. I mean,
I don't necessarily mean lesser as much as just different from like the Judeo-Christian concept of God.
Yeah.
Which is,
or any other major religion,
right? As opposed to like, they like, you know, if you're talking about that God, you would almost more think of people. You think about it when people say, "I prayed to God, not to a God." There is one God, as opposed to there are lots of gods. That's where the word takes a different turn.
But
for
see,
me.
in Norse mythology,
there's a lot of gods.
But those were the gods that sanctioned sanctioned the earth. They made the earth run, just like in Greek mythology and Roman mythology.
Yeah,
those were the gods.
Yeah,
meaning they created us. And in this world, Thor is the god of thunder,
right, meaning
he creates the thunder. Like,
see, I don't know. I know he can call it and harness it, but I don't know that he's in charge of it.
Well, I mean, that's his creation myth. Like, I don't know.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't think that you can. I mean, you can if you want to, but like, I don't pull in that much because I don't know what Marvel's universe
kept in. Well, he directly talks about that, about how they taught that he was a myth.
Yeah.
In school, and then he goes and talks to some Catholic.
Because like Storm can call down thunder.
She can, but she's not a god. No one calls her a god.
Not well. Some people and where she's from did. Like that's what I'm saying. That whole.
Well, also she's not named after one of the most famous Norse gods of all time.
I mean, most of this goes back to the fact that Thor is public domain.
Yeah.
So was it Roy? No, it was Stan Lee.
It wasn't just him, was it?
I mean, I can't remember who the artist was. I think it was Jack Kirby.
I'm sure Stan would say it was just him.
I don't remember who it was, but it was, those dudes to where they're like, oh, we can use Thor.
Yeah.
I mean, DC could if they wanted to.
Well,
it wouldn't be the same one, but
I don't know, man. It just came off as really preachy, particularly the earth pollution stuff, and
see, that all made sense to me, man. Like, you have a young SHIELD trainee who's not interested in fighting. She's interested in helping the environment with the resources that she's going to have through SHIELD.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, you see the seeds of a plot that show up, which is the Roxxon Corporation is like dumping whale carcasses, like in Antarctica or the North Pole, isn't it? The North Pole or the South Pole?
I forget where it is.
It's somewhere completely remote, and it's like they call it a whale graveyard or something.
That's what she says.
I think so. So I didn't see it was preachy as much as she was like very passionate about that kind of stuff, which I think is really interesting because every single other SHIELD character that ever shows up is look at my giant gun.
Yeah.
And not any other branch.
I do like the idea that she is different in the sense that she's not like, put me on the helicarrier and let me shoot some shit, or put me in the middle of wherever the action is. She literally is like, I want to clean the earth.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me, but the message just seemed so forced, where she was like, I want to talk to you about pollution. Where it almost seemed like Jason Aaron was like shaking his finger at us, like, you're polluting.
I don't get that sense at all, because Thor interrupts her and tells her that let's dance. So I don't get the sense that it's preachy, because if it was, I feel like we would get a lot more of an info dump, a lot more. I mean, all she says is, you realize the environmental damage that's being done to our planet on a daily. She doesn't even finish her sentence. That's all that's there. There's no more. There's no more delivery than that. That
sentence comes on the 2-page spread, which doesn't work as far as the layout goes.
Man, we are on opposite ends of the spectrum.
If you look, like,
did you have a hard time reading it?
When I first started reading it, I went to the wrong balloon first, because at the very first thing your eye sees is Thor's body in the top left of the page, pointing towards the helicarrier, which points you right to a balloon that you're not supposed to read first. My eyes followed that top image straight over to that panel, which is technically panel 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5.
4.
Yeah, 4. And that's not where you're supposed to start. You're supposed to start in the
but
bottom left.
that's weird, man. Why would you start halfway in the middle of a 2-page spread?
That's the problem, is I thought he was going to lead my eye back down around to the left. Like when I saw Thor.
I know, but there's no dialogue leading. It's just a piece of art.
You're right. It leads me directly to the balloons incorrectly. My eye followed that because
that might just be you, man.
the motion of which
I see what
Thor's
you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying because there's movement of him flying, but
and the helicarrier is literally lined up directly to the balloon. So when my eye got there, I naturally just went right over there to the balloon. Yeah. And then I was like, "Oh, that's wrong."
Yeah, I think that might just be you, dude. Because
I don't care. That's how it went. Like,
yeah, I know. I'm not. It's okay. I'm talking about in terms of how we've talked in the past of like it could be on our bad in terms of reading it, because that I don't know. I would never start in the middle of a 2-page spread. Like I started from the left and then read to the right.
When I saw it, it didn't.
And even down here, he connects the panel so you know which one to go to next.
It didn't compute to me as the middle of the 2-page spread. Is my thing. Oh. When I saw it, that I just literally followed that to the balloon, and then I was like, "Oh, that was not right." But I got like 2 bubbles in, and then I was like, "Oh, I think I missed something," and then went back down.
Yeah, you're just bad at reading, I think.
Probably. I don't know. It wasn't really for me. Out of all the issues so far, this is probably my least favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
You liked that one issue that you didn't like of Gore's backstory more than this?
I don't know. That's tough.
This is way better than that issue.
I don't know.
All the stuff in here of him, I liked that he was attacking a Fred Phelps analog. I thought that was pretty cool. I really like the idea.
Phelps. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't say God hates fags. It says God hates you, but that's obviously where those people are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Or those trash bags. All the rest of the stuff, I really like the idea of, like you said, Thor has to come back to Midgard. And they show that at the very end of the issue, many millennia from now. Uh-huh. So I don't really know how much Aaron is going to do this. My guess is we're going to have 2 timelines because
apparently
King Thor is going back to Midgard. When he goes back to Midgard, it's a wasteland.
We're probably going to have 3, man. Like if he has...
Oh, yeah, it shows him at the beginning.
Yeah, because, that's my point.
Yep. Yeah, it shows him at the beginning. The cover is awesome.
The cover is awesome.
It shows him at the beginning basically just... Yeah, it doesn't really tie into the story as much as it shows one of the first times that he went to Earth and basically just got trashed and laid. And he loved it because everybody fought for reasons.
I like him juxtaposing that, like showing Thor, brash young Thor being like, I'm here to fucking drink. And then showing like present day Thor being much more like aware of things. But also, it's just such a problem to me. And this is very similar to the Superman story, where this character has too much power. Because if he's literally going to areas that are just decimated by drought and making it rain, and he's literally giving homeless people food and like doing all of these things and helping all these people, he's not saving the amount of people that he could be.
But I don't think that's his aim as much as it is defending the Earth.
I know, but that's why this issue doesn't really make sense to me also. Then if his aim is defending the Earth, then literally going to death row to give someone who's going to die a fruit, and then having it rain in a desert, and then going to talk to one of the mother superiors at a Catholic church who then makes a joke about possibly fucking him later.
A nun does, yeah.
Like those things...
Kind of.
I mean, they're like, remember your vows, sister.
Yeah.
Like those things, if his aim is to defend the Earth, like, I guess you could make the argument he's defending it from poverty or he's defending it from famine. But
I look at it like an issue of Fractions Hawkeye, to where it's we've had all of that other stuff. We see him in the Avengers books. Like, this is the stuff he's doing when he's not an Avenger.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, of course. I mean, he's not going to sit at home and chill. Like, he's going to go and give people food. He's going to go and make it rain to where there's drought.
I like that idea. But then the concept of him not doing that all the time comes up for me when I read something like this. Like, you're not always... Like, you can fly. I don't know how fast he can fly, but he's not using his powers constantly to do those things.
I know, but I mean, in the previous arc that we just read, he saved every god in existence.
He did.
So, I mean, like, it's not like he's not doing anything.
No, I know. I'm not saying the guy's not busy.
I think that's just going to be one of those things with superhero comics, especially with a character that's that prolific to where you're just like, it's part of the suspension of disbelief. Like, how's Wolverine on 16 teams and has his own adventure?
That's different to me.
Like,
because Wolverine, I'm not worried about Wolverine saving everyone because Wolverine is not capable of that. Thor,
yeah, I know, but they're not capable. Like, Thor isn't capable of saving everyone all the time either.
he's just as incapable of saving someone from cancer as Superman is. Although I'm sure they could write away.
No, that's not true because Thor isn't incapable. That's a key difference to me in this, because it's not like,
well, no, he's just as incapable as Superman is, because Superman could take Jane Foster and fly her to wherever and find something to cure her, just like Thor could.
I don't know the DC universe as well. To me, that doesn't seem as reality, or like a heart attack or something like that. Like, well, that's why that whole thing with Pac, I'm always like, oh, of course.
Let's not get into that.
You can't save him because he has a heart attack.
That would have been way better than letting a fucking tornado kill him.
Whatever.
Anyway, it just, when the power levels get to be so high, they just become so hard to identify with. Whereas, like, young brash Thor, who's like, yeah, beer, fucking give it all to me, and he's being an asshole, like, that is easier to identify with. Not because I drink all the time and am a total fucker. I'm sure some people might think so.
I know, but where do you accept that he's doing everything that he can? Because, like, Quicksilver could feed everyone in the world.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, tons of these heroes could do this stuff. It's not like Thor has too high of a power level.
Suspension of disbelief is always a part of any superhero comic, almost any fictional story, actually. But just in this issue, because that problem never comes up in my head. In those previous Thor issues that we read, I was never like, yeah, but why isn't he fucking making it rain on some crops? That wasn't in my head. But when you actively show him doing those things, it then becomes a question of which is more important to him. Saving the Earth by solving these problems, which he is clearly capable of doing, and S.H.I.E.L.D. even brings it up to him. Like, what are we going to do about pollution, Thor? And then he goes to tackle that problem. Like, if you're going to...
I think you're answering your own question, though, man, because there has to be an Earth.
What was my question?
Well, like, what's more important?
Oh, yeah.
It's not a matter of importance. There has to be an Earth.
Yeah.
And then now that he's saved it from Gore and from killing all the gods and all the just monumental, like, and even across time, catastrophe.
Okay.
He's got a break, and so he returns to Midgard to
Which
help
he always
out.
does, yeah. But, like, here he is sitting on the moon with Jane Foster. Like, he's just sitting there.
I don't know, man. I mean,
there
comes a point where, like, why is he talking to that dude on the corner when he's not like? I mean, I think that's where the suspension of disbelief comes into, where you're like,
it is part of that, but it's also that, like I said, that's not a problem for me if he's literally like punching a god bomb. But as soon as you bring it up, as soon as you show me a whole issue of Thor fucking bombing around with the poor people, feeding them, and making it rain on crops, then the question of, okay, well, he can make it rain anytime he wants to.
Okay, but let's say he does all that until Thanos shows up.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want him to stay and continue to help it rain?
Instead of every single other hero fighting Thanos? Like, is Thor the only person who can defeat Thanos?
I mean, is that what you're saying? That, like, Thor should always do that and never help defend Earth? Like, I just don't know, like, what you want in terms of, like, there has to be...
It's not.
In my head, I look at it like he's helping right now because he can.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing pressing going on that he has to be somewhere for. So to me, that to me is more heroic than, because he could be like getting laid and and drinking in some other planet.
I think that's why I think that is why it's not completely disinteresting to me, because he is juxtaposing those things.
Yeah.
Where he's showing brash Thor doing that, where he's not helping. He literally is just getting laid and drunk.
Yeah.
And then you see, present day Thor doing these things. That's why it does have some cachet for me, because he is,
and I would argue
has
that,
made the choice to do these things.
I would argue that Aaron might even be saying that the bigger, like, more pressing problems are more important, because clearly something happened to Earth when we see King Thor.
Yeah.
That didn't happen because of cancer. That didn't happen because of famine. Like, that something happened and just razed the Earth.
We don't know.
I mean, there were like tornadoes and lightning bolts everywhere.
It might have been cancer.
I guess it could be.
You haven't read the issues yet. No, I don't by any means think it's written poorly. Particularly because we've talked about it as much as we have.
Your argument which is similar to the one with Superman,
Yeah.
that one I get. This one I don't, only because he's fleshed the character out so much and has showed the range of problems that he is facing.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm just kind of like, all right, man, I feel for him. Like he's doing as much as he can, as he can, because if he only had the power to cure drought and stuff like that, I know through reading his character that he would be doing that.
Yeah, well,
but the fact that this other stuff comes up,
I think I think it's probably a combination of,
as opposed to Superman, where I'm just like, you might be a dick.
I think it's probably a combination of going from going from 11 issues of him being that Thor, my hammer is in front of me, I'm fucking flying.
Yeah.
I'm going to fight some space sharks. I'm going to do all this shit, being that Thor, and then immediately stopping to be this Thor. It's abrupt. It's not insanely abrupt.
Yeah, I don't think it's too abrupt, because he wraps it up in the...
I also don't think it's too abrupt.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think he wraps it up.
But it is abrupt. Not to the point where I'm like, what? But the beginning does help when you see young Thor. But I think probably putting too many of the scenes where you're showing Thor doing all of these things instead of just having him focus on either one or two things dilutes the message and makes it seem preachy to me. Dilutes the message of...
I know, but if he showed him doing one thing, would you be like, why isn't he doing this all the time?
How would I know, man? I don't know. I didn't read that.
I mean, but that's basically your reaction to him doing other stuff that's smaller. Like, that's my whole point, is like, there's got to be a breaking point at some point where you just have to accept, like, he's going to do as much as he can within the time that he has.
There doesn't have to be.
Well, I mean, I guess don't enjoy it then. Like, I feel like that's stopping you from enjoying at least, like, aspects of his character, to where it's like...
I don't think so.
Oh, all right, maybe I'm just reading the situation wrong.
I mean, for me, it's not that... The preachiness is what I had a hard time with. That it didn't seem like it was just showing Thor do these altruistic things.
Yeah.
It was, look how bad everything is. Look how bad you've done the planet. And like we're polluting it, and we protest, and we do all these things, and Thor is better than that, and he's going to help us. And even though, it shows Jane say, I want to be a human, and I want to face this with my human abilities, and I don't want you to take that away from me. I think it's still one of those things where it's like the Superman thing, where he's a god. We can't ever be what he is. And for him to, like, not lord it over us, but just be so much better because he's a god, seems... it makes the humans seem sort of insignificant.
Yeah, okay. I don't get that at all from it, man. What do you give it?
Probably a 4.5.
I give it a 6.5. I thought it was a really good issue. I really like the series a lot. I'm going to keep reading it.
This is by far the most I've ever cared about Thor. Just without
I can tell you're mad at him when he's not doing enough.
Yeah. I mean, if you literally save every single god and then come back to Earth and
still do more,
yeah,
it's not enough.
If you're a god, it's not. It is not enough.
I don't get that.
Why?
What is he supposed to do?
Because if you're a human, you can only do a very limited amount of things. This motherfucker...
But he's not omnipresent, dude. He can only do one thing at a time.
You're right. He can do one thing at a time. Way faster and more efficient than we
will
will ever be able to do.
And we saw so many things that he did.
And yet it's not enough because he is a god.
I know, but I don't understand what you want. Like, did you want every single page to be him doing stuff? Like,
no, dude, that was my point. Is none of this shit mattered to me when he was fighting things in space.
Which that I don't get. Because that is almost like ignorance is bliss in terms of...
That's almost exactly what it is.
Okay.
Because if he's not showing me Thor worrying about the rain, then, you know what? Maybe Thor doesn't fucking worry about the rain. But the second you show me him worrying about it, why the fuck aren't you worrying about it all the time, Thor? You seem to really care while you're here now.
Because he's killing the threat to all gods.
And then he takes a break from helping the people who don't have water to sit on the moon with a girl.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
If you're a god, you're literally a god. You're invincible. You're not gonna die.
But I mean, what? I guess what's the solution to what you're saying though? Like, because that's character development, and that's character progression for him and for Jane.
It is character.
Like, do we not show that because he's like feeding people? Like, that's what I'm saying. You have to work that in, or else it's a boring comic of him doing nothing but saving people.
You don't have to work that in. I don't know.
I mean, maybe you don't have to, but that would be boring to me if I saw him feeding people for 22 pages.
Well, do I want to read that? No. But, I mean, if you show me one panel of Thor feeding people, followed by 2 panels of him fighting protesters, of making it rain on the fields, of giving away food, like all of that stuff, like, okay, I get it. I know what you're doing here. But then also, you're literally saying at some point Thor decides that those things aren't important and has to leave. Either it's because something is more important and more pressing,
Yeah.
or because he doesn't care. Or like unless you have the characters tell me, or you show some way, like you illustrate these things, and potentially he's doing that. It could come back around, but to show him care about these things for an issue, and then to not care about them, or to not stay on the planet and do these things, it just doesn't match up with certain. I
think he still cares. Like, I think that he absolutely cares.
Well, no, I wouldn't say.
I think it's just like, oh, Thanos is going to blow up the world.
Yeah.
I have to stop that.
Yeah, I have to stop him from blowing up the world. I get that. And also,
because he's a much bigger character than just like a humanitarian
Thor
walker across the earth. Of like, he has all these powers so that when other big supervillains step up,
yeah,
he can go toe to toe with them to stop for there to be an Earth.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. To me, it's even more heroic because on his downtime, when he doesn't need to be saving the Earth, he's still helping people.
But not all the time.
But to me, the only way that solution is solved is
Yeah.
if he's omnipresent. And he can be fighting Thanos, and he can also be making it rain on Earth at the same time.
Well, no, I get that part of...
He can only do one thing at a time.
I get that part of Thor, like a god, not the god, which is the line in Groundhog Day. Like, I get his failing in that he can't be everywhere at once.
Okay, I don't think that's a failing.
No, it's not a failing of him. Like, that's a failing of everyone. Like, you can't be everywhere at once. You can't do everything. You are going to fail. You are going to miss things. You can't constantly do what you want to be doing. No one can help everyone all the time.
Yeah.
Someone is going to die. Someone is going to, get what they don't want. That kind of thing. But in this case, showing me a character who can go above and beyond all of those things and can do all of these things that humans are just incapable of doing. They literally can't do them ever. And then for that character to not do them all, like, it's just, it's a suspension of disbelief. It is. But when I'm dealing with a god, it's hard for me to think about, him as anything other than selfish when I see him sitting on the moon with a person, like, talking. And I know he's helping her.
I know,
she wanted to see the sunset.
But go with me for a second. If I had Thor's powers,
Yeah.
and I saved the world,
Yeah.
and then I came home and I saved a ton of people from starving or whatever else, and then I sat down and talked to my wife, like, would you call me selfish?
Instead of saving the rest of the people on the planet that you're absolutely capable of saving.
I know, but I have a wife and a relationship. Like, is he supposed to completely ignore everything else on the face of the earth in existence, family, friends, relationship, whatever else, because someone's in trouble? Like, there's always going to be someone in trouble.
I know. That's what I was talking about as a failing. Maybe it's more of a fallibility thing. Yeah. Like, if you're a god and you attach yourself to a mortal person and you take away your ability to help people whenever you can, or
because
to constantly change and make things better.
Yeah.
Like, that is selfish. If you're a god.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you take it down to a human level, is it not the same anymore?
No.
On a different level. Like, I have spare money that I spend on comics.
Yeah.
I could give that money to the homeless.
You could.
But I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't think that actively makes me a selfish person.
What? That's so different.
No,
man.
I know it's different, but you're taking it down to a different level in terms of, like,
I'm not.
I am.
Oh.
I'm taking it down to a different level to where, yeah, I don't think that makes him selfish or wrong. Like, he can do it,
to
but
stop helping people?
But the way you make it sound like is that like he's watching people burning to death and
He's
not
not
saving
watching them, but he knows that it's happening.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
The only reason,
I understand what you're saying, but
the only reason it comes up is because he is a god.
Yeah, but I mean,
like Captain America could save way more people than he does. It's just
so why is it different for him?
Because he is not capable of saving as many people as Thor is. Like Captain America,
That doesn't make sense to me.
It does,
Because they're still human lives. So you're talking about quantity in term over. Because like Iron Man, with all of his resources, could probably save as many lives as Thor. Why is it not selfish for him?
If Iron Man could make it rain everywhere all the time,
He can and he does with dollar bills.
That's just, yeah, I knew where that was going. If Iron Man could do all of the things that Thor does, and he chose not to do them, yes, it's selfish. He literally can't, though. He's not a god. I'm sure anyone could be like, well, he could do this and make this happen because it's a comic book and you can literally do anything.
Well, no, I know, but I mean, I guess in that sense, to me, it looks like you don't give anybody a break if they're powerful, which to me is unfair in terms of looking at it as a character, because Thor isn't just a force of energy. He's a person. Like he has a soul. Like he has. I mean, whatever that means. I just mean in terms of like. He's not just a machine.
No.
Like, the dude is a dude. He has relationships with...
You have to name that the episode that. The dude is a dude.
He has relationships with people on Midgard, on Asgard with his family. Like...
He does, yeah.
I don't know.
Dude,
I can't look at it that way to where it's like, well, he's too powerful, so he shouldn't have any of the stuff that everyone else has. He should just only be saving people 24/7 all the time without stopping.
Again, I think you were probably saying it to try and make me look dumb. The ignorance is bliss thing does absolutely apply. Because if Thor is...
Well, I'm not trying to say anything to make you look dumb. I just don't understand what you're saying.
If Thor is not on the planet, like, hopping around in cornfields to help the rain come, if he's fighting... Yes, Emery, hopping like that. If he's fighting things, like you're watching him fight, to then call reality into the situation, to this level... Because I'm not against reality within fictional stories or narratives or any of that stuff. But this issue is about how awful the world is and Thor trying to help it. And I guess it is interesting that he either can't help everyone, which I don't think is the case, or that he chooses not to help everyone, which is a big story that I think needs way more attention, that somebody would choose not to help everyone even though they were capable of helping everyone. Like, that's interesting to me, but I don't know. I don't think that's the story we'll get. And I don't know that was ever Aaron's intention. But it's just showing me these things and then having it, like, showing me the things and having them be a very small part of the story of Thor. And I guess he does have a lot more human characteristics because, you know, even after...
Well, that's why he's more relatable to me than Superman, I think. Is because he is much more... Ironically, much more human, because neither of them are human in terms of being from Earth, at least.
He is much more human, especially when you use the phrase "to err is human."
Yeah,
because he's, you know, Aaron shows us that I think it's like 1 or 2 pages of young Thor drinking and carousing and
yeah,
and acting, you know, brashly. Then that held up against him saving people. But then also having a very close relationship with a human woman and not doing anything. I mean, he's sitting there, man.
Yeah.
So, like, I do relate to him more than Superman, probably because Thor can fuck up, and he wasn't always capable of lifting that hammer, which is much more interesting to me than him arriving at Earth and immediately being the most powerful fucker that lives on the planet.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, I hand it to Aaron because this is the most I've cared about Thor ever. So
yeah, me too. It's a great series.
He's doing something right, and the whole creative team, they're doing something right because it's still interesting.
Yeah, it's really good.
I'll read another issue.
Have you ever been alone in the woods and you needed a hatchet, but also you kind of wanted to read Action Comics?
Yes.
That's happened to me, only it was kind of a similar situation. I was in the desert, and I needed Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yes.
Luckily, DCBS was there for me. Discount Comic Book Service. You can find them on dcbservice.com.
Yes.
Online. They will throw out parachutes of supplies and comics, little like parcels like in Lost where they drop food
Yes.
onto the island. Is that your line?
No.
Okay. And get you with your comic book fixins.
They will.
DCBservice.com. You can get so much awesome stuff on there for discounted prices.
A lot of really good prices.
Anything you can think of. If you want to buy that gross Catwoman issue, they got it.
That is there.
If you want to read it, they're going to charge you for it, but they'll charge you like half off for it.
They will give you a really good deal on it. You can also follow them on Twitter.
DCB Service, yeah.
DCB Service is their Twitter handle.
If you're in the Fort Wayne, Indiana area, stop by their store. We've already told some hilarious stories about stopping in there. Like they'll punch you if you want them to.
We've said a lot of really funny
They'll high
things.
five. Seriously, if you go in there, we'll play it straight this time. They'll have a conversation with you and talk to you.
They'll talk to you. They'll be nice. They'll sell you some comics. And then right after you leave, you can go to the Chinese place that's next door.
Yeah, it's great food.
We almost always go there.
We always do.
Go to DCBS.
Go to DCBservice.com and get some comics.